34.
All right, we're live. It's 34 extended.
So we'll just wait a couple seconds, and hopefully people can transfer back. This thing is trash.
Yeah, YouTube's tripping. Oh, let me take my phone off of Wi-Fi. Maybe take some of the.
You guys got your channel down though, dude. You guys got the background. You got the fucking. I mean, oh shit! It just cut.
Watch the lag.
You got the. You got the phone. You got the music. You got the background music on top of that. You got your channel is doing well, I guess. Just so you know.
Appreciate it,
But
man.
I'll wait
At
till
the end of the day,
everything's
it's like we're just trying to, have fun and be able to have open dialogue with people and really discover in conversations. It's the people that are angry that don't want to have conversations. They want to argue, and they want to be right and try to convince you. But at the end of the day, it's like, I think we're back.
We're back. So smash that like button. Please share the stream right now. Do it now.
Do it now.
Do it. Come on.
Do it. Hit for the door.
Melina. So please hit that. And then Lucas, what was your story?
Yeah. So what we were talking about before we were rudely deplatformed that.
Yeah, we were just talking about how there's no control anymore from the white, like, and I'm not saying white people were always are in control. I'm not saying white people are in control. I'm saying that there's no control over the blacks. That's my specific part. It's like it's just like free game for them. And then on top of that, they have the government official. They got politicians, government officials. They got the National Guard, the police. They got everyone. They got the news, the media.
Yeah,
every company backing them up. Everyone's backing them up.
They got so much. They got millions of dollars for this movement. It is the most inorganic, unnatural
14 million, right?
movement.
14 million over George Floyd.
Yeah, and it's all going to the Democratic Party.
Yep,
The
it's not
biggest
going to
fundraiser.
one black-owned enterprise or business or anything like that.
Same-
Oh yeah, I
yeah.
remember what I was saying. That I am aware of to see what's going on, but I want to always remind myself, man, like it can sometimes seem like a war back and forth to say who's more of a victim. Like especially me, I found myself because I'm a white dude that would be one of the three white guys in the room in music for like the last 12 years, and I've experienced racism. People didn't hire me because I lost a job because I was white. They told me that we like you, but we want to have a black musician because it looks cooler. I've been called white boy. What's up, white boy? Like all the time. Oh, you can sing. You think you got soul because you smoke weed, like all kinds of ways.
Yeah.
But I always let it roll off my back, and I can sit and try to the people who've turned on me and try and be like explain it to them. But then it's like, people will say like, oh yeah, but that's just your work. Try having it to live with it outside of in your everyday life all the time. It becomes this battle of trying to see who's more of a victim. And I just I want to keep growing in my manhood where I'm powerful in my own life. Like I feel like I was a late bloomer, and I'm tired of feeling like I want to blame somebody else for my own life. And so I just want to encourage and be that example. I don't want to go back and forth with people and try to tell them how, what's going on, what's wrong with white people and, that we're oppressed or anything like that. I hope I would never say that about myself,
You should be able to, again, it's like if Malcolm X could have a civil conversation and sit down with George Lincoln Rockwell, who, if you look him up, was somebody that most people on the face of it would think, oh, this guy's nuts. But they were both civil, respectful men who could sit down and talk, and they're on opposite sides of the spectrum, a white separatist and a black separatist. And as an example, I have a friend, shout out to Monica, because she's a full-on Mexican woman, or Salvadorian, I believe, mixed, whatever, she's Spanish, and she is on the left side of the spectrum. She's someone who finds good qualities, and I think socialism, I don't want to speak for her, but I know she is definitely not on my side of the spectrum, but we talk often. She's a good friend. There's respect there. She doesn't judge me for my point of views. We laugh at things. It should be that way with everybody.
She helps. Yeah, she helps out. She helps out the whole, I guess you can say camaraderie within, the United States of America, instead of these Hispanic, black, and even a lot of the white liberals, but they just pander to the blacks. So it's mainly the black leaders that they're using. They're the weapon. They're the weapon. The white liberal Democrats, leftists, are the person just manning the weapon, and they don't teach them. They don't teach the blacks. They don't even teach whites. They don't teach the Hispanics how to be successful in life. They say that, here, this is your problem. This is your problem. Every day they just keep saying, you have a problem. You have a problem. To the whites too. I'm not just singling out the blacks. To the whites, they keep saying, you have a problem. You have a problem. You don't deserve to be who you are or how you act. And to the blacks, you don't deserve freedom. You will never get it because of these people, and it's always just giving problems, and it gets to a point, and that's why I told Hake this morning is that Jesse's the only one that can keep me sane because of his silent prayer. Honestly, I know, and now I don't look at his video when I do it because I learned about what he means. I thought for myself,
Right.
and I figured it out for myself, and I know what the silent prayer actually is. I just call it the silent prayer because he showed me that path, but it's crazy. It's so funny how I can see all this destruction. I can see all this destruction going on in front of me, and still have the same attitude, and I appreciate that.
It's wild. It's wild that this climate in times, like at the end of the day, the most timeless principles that apply to everybody in the whole world are not being talked about, which is the family, which is the order of God, and being able to have a mother and a father and then raise your children right. Like everything is being promoted totally backwards, and they're teaching people to be angry and to blame another race, when at the end of the day, it's like, even it goes back to like when I don't know who was it that started calling black people African Americans, right? But from what I can see, it's used as a tack to divide Americans, because it makes black people define themselves as an immigrant, right? Because I'm African American. They don't see themselves as just Americans, and so the Democrats use that to their advantage, because with the immigrants, the illegal aliens and stuff, they get the blacks now to come in and identify with all of them, so that they're now part of, they're the ones that represent minorities.
Yeah, black brown unity.
Even though minority is another word created to make you feel less than when you're just an American. And the last thing they want, especially in election season right now, they want Americans to be divided. And people don't think about the fact that while America's being divided, all these other countries that are our enemies are watching it. And at any moment, they could come in and attack us, and we're all divided. We're not going to be unified. Like, America's known for having, the most
you're
guns,
so right about that. I never thought about that. I never thought of it. You're right about that. Wow, you opened my mind. See, that's why I like these conversations. I like these radio shows and stuff like that, because you're right. Yeah, I never thought about that. We're imploding right now, and what if we get hit from the outside?
Well, I mean, it's coming, man. Like,
double whammy.
We're already being hit from the inside with the deep state stuff that's going on, because this is all planned stuff, man. This is not an accident. Like you said, it's not organic. This is all the higher ups who are controlling the businesses. All the rich elite people, the actresses, Hollywood. It's all used, like those influencers, to try to control the people and make us divided and hate each other, so that they can turn America into a communist, socialistic country, and that's really what's happening.
Yeah, it's we are watching. They have weaponized anger, and there's no, like I've said before, there's no dimmer switch, like Trev's example, and you have to be able to see the spiritual battle. If you don't have that vision to be able to tell which spirit someone's serving, you will get seduced by the emotions and the thoughts that come into your head, and you have to understand that you already know this, but people need to understand that is the devil up here. This is the snake in the garden. He lives in our head. He sounds like us. He knows every detail about us. He knows the Bible inside and out. He will use any example, any hypothetical, to get you to be seduced into the world. So you have to separate that, doubt every thought, because you can't turn it off. All you can do is not buy into it. Don't talk back to it, and then you'll see it. You'll see, man, this guy serves evil. These guys don't serve evil.
You can't stop the clouds from going by in the sky, but you can look up and acknowledge that they're clouds. And that's what helped me in my life, is realizing that there's two identities. There's the identity that God created me with in my soul, and then there's the identity that the world and my parents and you know, media and movies and everything imposed onto me, which is my ego, to try to make me feel like I'm somebody. Because the world wants to make you think that you got to be somebody out there, you know, and it's all a lie to make you all in your ego. And the ego is like a shield. And meanwhile, what's really oppressed is our souls. You know, our real identities has been pushed away, and we're all afraid. You know, we want to be liked, so we're agreeable. Or we don't want to say the truth, and that's what the devil's doing, man. He's convincing people to sacrifice the truth so that you will be liked and that you won't lose anything. And I'm at that point now. I'm like, dude, I don't care, man. I got nothing to lose. What am I going to lose?
You're so right about that. You're so right about that, Trevor. I was just, my sister came over to my house last night, and I was talking to her about that, and she was talking about the guy that she's dating, but then she kept getting back in, and she always had this problem, but we all got big noses in my family. She was talking about her big nose, she was talking about her hair, and I'm like, Lauren, that's her name. So I was like, Lauren, like this, like we've been talking for the past hour and a half about what we believe in and how we are doing right, and about God and about our family and about forgiving them. Like we were talking about for the hour and a half, and then all of a sudden now you are insecure about your nose, and you feel ugly, and you feel you don't know what's gonna go on with the guy that you're dating. I'm like, that it just makes no sense. We just get lost. We get lost in that bullcrap, and just like you said, it's about the soul. It's about the soul, and that's what reminded me, because that's what I told her. I was like, look, Lauren, when I'm looking at you, and unless I'm part of the children of the lie, unless I'm part of those evil people, I'm just looking at you in your eyes and listening. I don't care about your nose. I don't care about your face. I don't care about your hair. I don't care about your body. I'm listening to you at first, and then I'll make my assessment after that. I'll make my judgment after that. But it was a great conversation. My sister's beautiful. It just made no sense. It made no sense to me. And, it made me realize it's all about the soul. Like you said, it literally is all about the soul.
That's why I noted.
Right,
you said, I thought it was funny because you said it makes no sense.
Yeah, and then William said in the chat, nos and cons.
No, but dude, no, for sure, man. I hear you, bro. And at the end of the day, most people, they can't just listen, because as soon as they hear something that they disagree with, their mind steps away from being present and starts to think about what they're going to say and reply. And that's how, you know, you get disconnected. And a lot of times, it's better to just listen, man. You know, listen to what someone has to say. And you don't have to agree with them to listen.
That's it.
And you don't have to agree to understand either. And that's why the more I understand myself, the more I have understanding for other people. And I know people can't help themselves.
Yeah, my love is not agreeing with you or disagreeing with you is not a requisite for me to love you. I love you regardless, whether I think you're right or wrong. But what I won't accept is if your anger tries to impose on me in any way. That's a difference. But you can still love somebody. It does not require agreement.
Yeah, you're right about that.
Well, I appreciate the call, man, and I can tell you need to get that off your chest.
Yeah, and tell your sister her nose is beautiful, even if it is big as hell.
Can I leave you guys with the gospel? Can I leave you guys with the gospel song that I made up myself?
Preach!
You can clap if you feel necessary.
Preach! Go for it.
All right, here it goes. Hopefully it sounds good on the phone, because I made it up myself. All right, it goes.
Don't be a cultural appropriator.
Satan's got a hold on me, but I said, oh yes I said, get behind me, whoa, get behind me, yeah, get behind me, whoa, get behind me. I'm gonna extend it, but I just need the music and everything.
I love it.
That's what's up, man.
I love it.
Well, yeah, Satan's always going to be behind me. I'll tell you that every day. I always tell him that every day.
I love it.
Well, I appreciate it, man. Thank you for sharing, man.
Lucas, thank you, my friend.
Yeah, man. Just keep speaking up, bro.
Yeah, no fear, man. No fear.
Hey, if you want to make a song out of that, if you want to put it in one of your songs, I don't care, dude. Use it. I don't know. I don't care. But I just wanted to do that, guys. Well, hey, thank you guys for answering and all that, and I appreciate it.
No doubt, bro.
All right. Later, Lucas.
All right. You have a good night.
You too.
Yeah. It's crazy,
Amazing.
man. You know, speaking of music and stuff like that, you know, like I said, I've been the one of 3 white guys in the room, you know, and all of the friends I've had, and I still have, you know, great friends that haven't turned on me that are black, of course, but a lot of black people that I've known have turned on me and accused me of riding the coattails or the backs of black music, right? And it's so crazy to me how that's used like that, because to me, it's right. I never had any intention of capitalizing off of black people or anything like that, and I've never had that mentality. I've always just appreciated it and celebrated it, right? But I didn't know that I was really hated for being white. I've been the novelty guy, you know, and it's been revealed and exposed to me. Not everybody,
Joey Muggs.
but there's a lot of people who see it like that. Oh damn.
Joey.
Uh.
What's up, man?
What it do, baby?
He's also
Heard
a
around
musician.
the world.
Joey, you also do music, right?
I do.
Amazing.
Well, you're not allowed to do music because you're culture appropriating,
Right.
and you have to make white music.
Right. You can't use black music.
So what I was saying, man, sorry, I don't mean, I want to hear you because you called, but I want to finish my point. Is like I don't have the mentality of like thinking like, oh, white people, you know, created cars, right, or electricity. So if you drive a car or use electricity, you know, you're riding the coats of white people. Like that's the mentality that some people have, and it's just disappointing to think that that's how people are thinking, you know. And like if I you know, I have a song and it got popular in the Philippines. If I sang a song in Tagalog and, you know, Filipino, they would see it, and most countries and ethnicities would see it as an honor that you're celebrating their culture with them. But now it's like it's used and turned against me as though I'm like this horrible, like, I don't know, man. It's just I never saw it coming. I guess I was just naive. But go ahead, bro. What's cracking?
Hey, man. Just glad to be able to tune in today, man. I've been watching you guys for a little bit now, and I seem to always need to catch different parts of the show where you got somebody on, and I wanted to just address you guys directly. Trevor, thank you, bro, for constantly posting, along with you, Rich, man. You guys motivate me to just speak up for the whites, man. Y'all need more white babies around here, man.
That's right.
What's going on?
Are you white? That way the audience knows.
Man.
What are you?
Brother, I'm 100% Puerto Rican, but I do not have afro. I have an Amerifro.
Oh, that's what's up, man.
So as a Puerto Rican, that's good because you're a Puerto Rican, you know, full-blooded American citizen, but you understand that there's nothing wrong with saying make white babies.
And you could see for yourself. It's not. I'm not seeing this a certain way because I'm white. You know, I'm not looking at it through that lens. Because we go to a church where everybody has the same ideologies and we all have our understanding, and it's all different ethnicities, and you know, we go to this men's group, and you know, it's not about the race. It's about character. It's about, you know, true equality. It's not about, you know, what the world is trying to make it about, like with these restaurants. It's just crazy.
Yeah, I agree, man. I think you know, it's interesting because being 100% in the blood Puerto Rican, bro, I'm an American, bro. I'm 100% American. So it's crazy because in particularly with Latinos, it's funny, like Puerto Ricans from the island treat me like I'm a white boy because I'm from here. I wouldn't grow up on the island. Doesn't mean that I'm not 100% Puerto Rican. And the only time these guys will say, quote unquote, my side is if it's against like another ethnicity of Spanish, right? Like if I was next to another Puerto Rican from the island who was arguing with me, he would get on my side if we ended up being compared to Mexicans. But I recognize that to everybody else, everybody Mexican that's Spanish. I ain't tripping. It's like really nothing to get offended by, bro. Like, you know, it's like you said, speak it for yourself, man, and not being so freaking offended by words. Like, it's one thing I have learned, like, words, I wouldn't say words matter. I think Jesse does a phenomenal job teaching that words should not matter so much that you get angry and get caught up in them.
They shouldn't matter at all.
You know, yeah, man. Well, you know, the reality is like, you know, I'm a Christian, and I absolutely love that at first it rubbed me wrong, right? I think it does for most people. It's something about Jesse that rubbed them wrong, but they still listen, right? And it rubbed me wrong, the idea of something like that. And I have absolutely adopted it because I recognize every time Jesse quotes scripture, even if he botches it, it reminds me that I know the scripture and I didn't need him to tell me it anyway, right? Know thyself, bro. The scripture's written on our heart. And so the idea of not knowing yourself and thinking that you do because you become so intellectual or you start to study so much that because you're in your brain. And I think you said it beautifully, man. Like, Satan is in the battlefield of your mind. So if you let your ego get in the way, I'm sure you guys tuned in when Jesse was talking to Joel about how to handle the pain, right?
I may have missed it. What did he say?
Bro, so Joel was asking him about, like, so how do you sit with that pain? Like, you know, people come and ask you to come talk to you, and you really don't want nothing to do with them in that moment. Like, how are you supposed to act? And Jesse was, in short, describing how it's really not you that's offended, it's your ego. And you need to let that die, let God fight that battle for you. And treat them as you normally would. And it's, dude, just in that, there's so, if people would be willing to listen to it, my goodness, the release that you would get, it's unbelievable. But, you know, they caught up trying to be opinionated and be right. Instead of being right, they're trying to be right in an argument. It's just a shame.
Yeah, how you, it's just another form of control, is if someone treats you a certain way, and the way they treat you has the power to control how you react and how you treat other people or them, then that's just controlling you. And if we can stay consistent in our character, who we are, no one should have the power to make us disturbed inside or like disrupt our peace. You know, like, and that's the beautiful thing about knowing yourself and growing in that and realizing that hate is a spirit, you know? It's so much better to that's what it means to know yourself, is to have awareness of that battle that's going on and that conflict, because those are the forces of good and evil, you know, battling it out, and then you feel all this weird stuff, and if you just relax and be still and know that it's just doing what it is and do nothing, you know, like, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then, you know, it's true about, you know, you become what you hate or you become attracted to what you hate. And so it's crazy to see how people get bent out of shape. Like, I on my channel, bro, like probably 3 or 4 weeks before all this mess started happening, I released a video that I had sent to my men's group privately that a buddy of mine encouraged me to post, which was about that racism doesn't exist. And so, like, I'm grateful that I got it out before all this, because it's not about clout chasing. It was more about the honest belief that we're all one in Christ anyway. Obviously, with you being in the body, but it's God's will that no one would perish anyway. So my goal was for you to be there. And the only way we're going to do that, bro, is if we stop trying to subcategorize hate or evil, and let's just call it evil. Let's just call it for what it is.
Exactly.
So, like,
all those words,
you know,
are boogie words, just like we talked about the chat with, like a great example is hate crimes and hate speech. It is simply just a crime. It is simply just speech. An angry person will say anything to insult you. If I'm black and you're white and I want to hurt your feelings, I'm going to call you a cracker. And if it's the reverse, guess what? You're going to drop the N-bomb. If you're a Mexican, I'm going to call you a beaner.
If you're fat, someone's going to be like, oh, you're fat. People just want to hurt you, and that's why you can't let those words have power over you to hurt you.
Exactly. They're just words. And if anything, all it does is shows that you have no love to begin with, because if it affects you, the truth is not in you. You're also a liar.
Ooh, that's fire. That's true, man. And, you know, and it's reason to take a step back and audit yourself, right? Because I think that's the leaning on the point of knowing thyself. And if the reality is, if you're doubting every thought, then every thought that should, whether it's good or bad, we talked about this a little bit earlier, you guys did, about, like, egos, right? And it's just ego, bro. If you can let it inflate you, it'll deflate you too. Right? So the idea of, like, I think Rita had mentioned this to you, but since we're here, I have a friend of mine, an old lady friend of mine, who light-skinned Puerto Rican chick. I know, I'm a little light too, but, you know, dude, this chick has curly hair, and she came on a show recently talking about how she's white passing Puerto Rican and talking about white privilege and white fragility. I just found out this chick is engaged to a white man, and then I'm like, dude, that dude's gonna live in hell, man. His life is gonna be absolutely upside down and subservient, and it's the reason why there's room, because men aren't standing up in the first place, you know. So I really appreciate you guys constantly pushing the truth and staying with this, like, just a affirmation that it's all right, not only to be white, but to stand up for what's right, even if it's against popular opinion. Because as you mentioned, Trev, we should be getting persecuted anyway, right?
Right.
So to stand up for what's right, at least I'm gonna get persecuted for the right thing, not because they.
Right.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah. At the end of the day, I thought of that. Today is like, what do I have to gain? Like people think that it's like, what do you think I'm doing? I'm saying this stuff for because I want attention. Like I want to lose all. I want to lose people that hear my music. I want to lose people that are my so-called friends or that my network. Everything. Everyone's been turning against me. So what would I have to gain? For this stuff? It's because I see that the world is lacking the truth so much that it's like, I know that if I can see the truth, then it's my responsibility and obligation to say it. Like otherwise, why would I have eyes to see?
Right.
People don't have eyes to see, and it's like if you have eyes to see, it's a disservice to God, man, to not speak up without being angry and hateful and just say the truth.
You have nothing. What the world wants you to do is believe that because you have an opinion, that you need to walk on eggshells with people who have different opinions. I've got a good friend from high school. I say good friend because I have love for him no matter what his life choices are. He is gay. He identifies as a gay man.
He gay.
And that's not a big deal. It'll never change my love for him. If someone's doing wrong to him, they try to jump him in the street and I happen to be there, I'm going to jump in and defend him because what's wrong is wrong.
Right.
However, that does not mean that I will not say my opinion, that I believe that is an unnatural way to live. It came from trauma as a child. And that's it. It doesn't change it. I can still have a beer with them. I won't get awkward. But you will notice that people who do have emotions and operate from hate will get awkward around you when you're vocal about it. And that's a giveaway that they don't have the love in them.
That's good, bro. Were you guys, I'm about to quote something from one of the church services. Were you guys there when Jesse was answering the question of should you be dispassionate or compassionate?
Yeah, I remember that.
So it's the right idea, man. In reality, it's not wrong for you to have compassion for somebody who has a lifestyle that offends God. Because at the end of the day, it's a matter of them being lost, as you said. We're called to love ourselves, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind, along with nothing else, and love thy neighbor. The idea, though, is that we get so caught up in this hyper grace message that we're not willing to tell people the truth in that love. And this is where answering with gentleness and respect makes sense. This is what makes it so powerful to ask questions of people that you disagree with so that they can get it off their chest where their dispositions are. Because many times we start handling objections that are really just complaints. They're not objections. They're complaints. And so when we over-validate it, it's like yesterday I was looking at with a buddy of mine the definition of racist, right? And it's incredible how much they're trying to redefine the term that white people are the only ones that can be racist, but it actually says, as one of the definitions, it's a set of beliefs, right? It's a set of beliefs, this idea. I have to affirm your idea if I go into the racist or anti-racist. None of it is real. It's all a smokescreen, and it keeps us fighting about things and itemizing fights that really don't bring progress. It just brings more division. And it'll set you aside to where a lifelong friend, right, that you can have a beer with, that has a different lifestyle, how are you going to be able to communicate with him if you have nothing but anger when you express yourself towards him, right? So it's important, man. As far as for this show, is there like an end game that you guys are looking for?
No expectations.
Yeah, I don't have any end game, man. We just wanted to stream. Wanted to find people, because I live in LA, I'm in the entertainment industry, and I mean, I don't even know if I am in the entertainment industry. I just make music, I'm not going to say I'm in anything, but it's very rare to find people because it's just like, aside from going to church, it's like I don't really talk to anybody anymore, and if I do, it's people hitting me up, that I know because that I haven't heard of in years that just want to, argue or like, go against something I'm saying or whatever, change my mind or like whatever, and so we're doing this. I'm doing it because I want to find like-minded people. I want to share the truth. I want to utilize the freedom of speech, man, because it seems like even though we have that freedom of speech for now, it seems like people are afraid to use it, and it's all just a bunch of bootlicking going on, especially in the industry.
Oh, yeah.
They all just want to like network and say what they want to say as a collective group, so that they can get further along in their careers. And I'm just over it, man. I want to be able to be powerful in my own life instead of being afraid to speak up. If you don't want to support me because of my views on what the truth is, then don't support me. I can't stop you.
Right. If anything, really, it's just that's 100% okay. Like, I think I'm with you on the idea. Like, being an artist myself, bro, I have realized how much I really don't want to do work with people who are living lifestyles or doing things that are absolutely against just the right shape of life, man. Starting with God, and it's amazing that I think as a culture, as a society, tend to put these people on pedestals. But same idea, man. This past week, Joel even said it. You can see exactly where somebody's at just based on the way they respond to this George Floyd case. You know everything you need to know by the way that they respond to this thing. And the more and more of these, so-called hate crimes and murders happen around the country, the more you start seeing how lost people are, and you realize it's not you that saves them anyway, dude. That's why standing up is important, because if you've been called to know the truth and have ears to hear, you should have a mouth to speak as well.
That's right.
You should be able to stand up on that. You know what I mean? And that's I think that's just interesting, bro. Being a Puerto Rican, once again, dude, it's funny. I'm right up the middle, dude. It's never a brown issue. It's always black and white. And why does that matter? like I think you were talking about it at the beginning of the show, Trev. Like, I'm not gonna go to your business just because you're the same race as me, bro. You're bugging. Like,
and even like
bugging. Like,
at the end of the day, it's like it is just about hatred and anger, because even like people in their own races were gonna hate on what shade they are. Like I went to high school in Orange County, right? And most people there are like the tan surfer beach people, and I'm like super pale, right? And I used to get made fun of for that from white people, and just like black people will get made fun of by their own kind of being light skinned or dark skinned, and it becomes a war about that.
Or whitewashed.
Exactly. Or you talk like a white person, or you're a coon or Uncle Tom. Like, at the end of the day, it's just that hatred and that anger. And when people wake up to seeing that, and then you could just call it what it is, it's not. They'll realize it's not a racial issue at all.
The same people who are going to call you because if you're a white guy who's saying that, hey, this corporate endorsement of just throwing money at a business just because they're black, that's the only qualifier, is ridiculous, because if they did that for white people, they would lose it. And it just shows you that those same people have the nerve to call you a racist for stating that when it has nothing to do with it. It's the emotional people are the liars. You should have zero emotions.
Yeah. That's good, bro. Like, the emotions does drive the lie, but I would go as far as to say this. You know how you're saying, like, if white people said, hey, only go to white-owned businesses, right? How would there be uproar for that?
Yeah, I would think that was whack just the same.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to. I would tell them to take that down. That's ridiculous.
I'm like, why would you do that? It's
Let's
like,
promote the best businesses.
Exactly. It's about the product. You think that what's it called? iPhone became a thing because of the race it was? No, it's because it was a great idea.
Yeah, and speaking of blacks succeeding, black people talk so much, not all of them, but they talk so much crap about someone like Ben Carson, and that guy's a successful black man, but because he's conservative, because he's a Republican, he got nothing but hate from the majority of black people because they mostly vote Democrat, like over 90%. So how is that love? You have a black man who succeeds in life, and they hate him because he votes differently.
Yeah, wow, that's dead on, bro. I got two quick comments on that, right? One, I think that I think you're right as far as the, like if a white business owner decided to put that up, how it would be the right thing to address him. Like, dude, you don't need to do that. But the reality is, because neither white people have said, let's make an all-white business day, as well as not standing up against it enough, saying, hey, black-owned business, you shouldn't be just advertising for other blacks to own, like, you know what I mean? Because neither or has happened, now, even if you like anti-Black Lives Matter post, you're getting fired anyway. Like, they're just taking even more field at this point.
Right.
And it becomes where it's like, it discourages those who don't even know that there is, a community of people to back you up for saying the right thing. Because look, while the left doesn't support Ben Carson, it's a clear example of success in Black America. Clear. Our Attorney General's freaking black, dude. What are you talking about? Right? Or the Surgeon General, excuse me. So
yeah, majority white people voted for a black president twice.
Yeah, overwhelmingly.
Dude, yeah, seriously. But now that he's out of office, he ain't black when we talk about it that way, right? So it doesn't.
Exactly.
Either way, you can't win.
You
But
can't exactly, to go on that exact point is that for a long time people would say, "Oh, you're white, you can't speak on these issues because you don't know what it's like." And then now they're saying silence is violence. That if you don't speak up, then you're against us. So it's like you said, you're either damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. So you might as well just speak the truth, man.
It's all a mind game.
That's
it's like
right.
with Jesse, like I was telling Trevor, the way I look at it, and it's not a knock against women. I don't even have to make that disclaimer, but women should get it. If you're honest, that spirit that plagues women, that evil spirit, which also plagues men, beta males.
Which is that emotional nature.
Exactly, that spirit, and we're so easy to characterize a woman because we've seen that stereotype. It's a little more common. It's that petty spirit that will make up things like you ask her what's wrong, nothing, and then out comes like all this drama. So their ability to create problems out of thin air and just twist your words around endlessly, and it goes nowhere because they're not interested in logic. They're interested in sucking you in. That same spirit operates through men and women when they're in that fallen state. And you can see it's happening now with this whole black-white thing. It's all emotion, it's all petty, and it goes nowhere. They have no interest in actually having a conversation. They just want to attack you and accuse you that you're a racist and blah, 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 blah.
Or it's a setup.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a setup to bring you down a rabbit hole and make you emotional too, right?
Exactly.
It's to really try to prove that you have beta in you too, instead of them recognizing they like the alpha and want to step into it, right? So
just like if you tell a girl that you don't want to have sex, she's gonna try to make you have sex. If you tell a girl that you don't have anger, she's gonna try and prove that you do.
Oh man, that's the truth, boy. That's funny. And man, like I'm talking to a buddy of mine. He black.
You black?
He was trying to tell me about he was trying to tell me about how about the whole oppression and all that. I'm like, buddy. He's like, well, how many black men are in Congress right now? I was like, buddy, how come you're not running for Congress? He's like, well, I don't want to go that way. I don't know enough. I'm not qualified for that yet. I'm like, bro, like you can literally pull up a bill of Congress on your smartwatch.
Exactly.
You really don't have an excuse because you have a smartwatch on, bro. You're a secret agent in.
That's why people want to choose that blameful route, whatever ethnicity or race you are. And I used to be like that too, where if I didn't get a call from somebody or I didn't get a job or a gig, it was way easier to come up with a story in my head about why the world was against me. As opposed to being like, well, maybe I just need to step up my game. Maybe I need to network more. Maybe, whatever it is it always has to fall on me is where I'm doing something. It's my fault.
Right. But that's also because you've woken up and recognizing your morals come from someone who show you what morals are, right?
Right.
And so that's why it falls back into how Jesse says, just based off the data. It's not all but motives. Based off the data. It tells us everything we need to know, and it doesn't mean that we need to walk in with the pre-judgmental attitude, because the idea is, once again, by knowing thyself, I ain't going to get angry either way, whether you end up being a beta, whether you end up being ego-driven, whether you end up being speaking the truth. All it does is allow me the opportunity to exercise the peace God has given me. It doesn't matter, whatever it is, I just do what's in front of you. And
That's
sometimes
right.
it's as simple as allowing people to throw up that emotion.
That example you brought up happened this Sunday at church with one of our bong ladies, our bong girls. The same idea that the devil will come up with a way to make you stall and stutter and hesitate. And so the topic was guns and if women should have guns, and her position was at the time, and it may be different, but at that time, she felt like she wasn't in the mindset to do it, not ready, and she admitted that she had a thought that she might even not be able to pull the trigger if her life depended on it, that she might stand there, freeze, and the bad guy would take the gun. And I had brought that example up before, and I said to some of the girls, like, that's exactly what you have to overcome is that fear. You don't need to be a Navy SEAL to be competent and proficient with a firearm. You just need to go and do it, stay out of your feelings, be present. You will learn. Like anything else in life, you stay present, you can learn anything.
Right. And I love it too because Jesse addressed, don't be brave, just have no fear, right? Bravery even itself is ego because you believe you can handle it. No, dude, just don't be scared. right? And turn that battle over to God. Because the idea is, at the end of the day, man, look, I grew up Democratic. I grew up under a single mama who did her best to not bash with pops. And when I grew up and heard Jesse talk about forgiving her and recognizing what she did wrong by on Father's Day trying to act like she can soak up a Father's Day gift to shit my mom and my dad, bro, you wrong. Super duper wrong. But it's not. People use the excuse that because they're not taught, that they blame. And instead of allowing the Spirit to teach them, right? Because that's what the Spirit does, right? Leads us. Right? The Spirit knows the depth of our heart, our wicked heart, and it also knows what God's will is. So you have the cheat code. That's why the silent prayer works, bro. You're letting the cheat code work. And instead, you get overwhelmed and get all emotional, and, right? Like you said, hooping and hollering, and you want to listen to worship songs that make you cry because they give you emotions. Like, dude, man, you get past that. You get tired of other people who are comfortable believing the lies. So I'm with you, Trev, and Rich, on the idea of, like, these friends are not, the so-called friends are not friends, man. It's just people with motives that want to use you as much as humanly possible until they have no need. That's the same thing that happens to men that become feminists and whites that become black allies in the respect of Black Lives Matter, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure, man. Well, I appreciate it, bro.
Yeah, thanks for calling in, Joey.
Yeah, man, likewise. I appreciate your time, guys.
All right,
man.
brother.
Take
Be
care,
well.
Amazing.
Yeah, because, as unfortunate as it is, it may seem that I'm losing all these so-called friends that I had or whatever. I'm also, what's being revealed is the ones that understand me that I've known for a long time and that know my heart and know where I'm come from, and they're not committed to misunderstanding, and they're not caught up in their identity, the physical identity, and in the world and what the world is telling you. I think Dave Chappelle did this thing recently talking about, he didn't really tell any jokes, but he contributed his influence to validate a lot of things that are going on. And it's just crazy how obvious it is now to see how celebrities and influencers are used as tools to persuade people to seeing and concluding to the way things are and the way they outlook is on life. Because most people are not thinking for themselves, or not connecting the dots in their own minds to see, get from A to B or whatever, because our whole lives we weren't doing that. We were taught by our parents certain things. Never questioned them for ourselves. We just took their word for it. Or the movies or TV shows or all these celebrities, they tell you things, and because you think they're cool and because everyone else likes them, you're like, oh, it must be true. And it's not like you believe it because you really see that it's true. You just got seduced. And I was like that too. And now I know that there's a reason that I was called to see differently and to go against the grain and to whatever it is that's going on in my life. I wouldn't have planned this. If I was being negative or, skeptical about it, I would say from the outside looking in, it looks like I'm doing something that's sabotaging my life or my own career.
Who would sign up for this?
Exactly, it comes from that I know there's this lack of truth out there, man, and it's at this point in time, there's a divide happening, and it's a good divide, which is divide of good and evil, the divide of hate and love. And at the end of the day, you pick a side, and no matter what your intellectual, brain wants to tell you to justify certain things that you hear, at the end of the day, it's going to come down to that. It's daytime or nighttime. It's not dusk. Whether you want to try to convince and tell you why it's dusk, if there's a buoy over here and a buoy over here, and you're swimming, and you just stay in this area non-committal, you're going to drown. So you got to grab something, and one of those buoys has an anchor on it. It's going to pull you under. So you got to grab that one that's going to be true.
Exactly, and just don't worry about anything. I mean, that's what's crazy is they think that this is. Some people think that you're out to get something like this. Again, there's no benefit for speaking the truth in this world. The world is full of fallen people and full of people under the influence of evil emotions, and they can't admit it because they're too arrogant, because they listen to that voice in the head, not the gut. And it doesn't matter, speak up. And like I said, you'll know that you're on the right path because pretty much the entire world will persecute you. Just like we were told by good old Jesus that just as they persecuted him, they shall persecute us. So don't sweat it. Even that's not a big deal. I don't care if the world is burning all around you, and your family's dead. Be like Job. Not a big deal. Have a smile on your face. Be grateful for every second you get on this earth. That's how you gotta live. So apparently they want to change Splash Mountain in the chat. They want to get rid of the name because it's racist.
How?
I don't know, because it's white people that are in the background hunting. Because they're rednecks. That's all I remember is it's country's themed, and there's rednecks and they're hunting. But how is it racist? But again, it's not about that. They want to get rid of white people. They've been tagging up monuments for abolitionist whites in the past, guys who were against slavery. They tagged and destroyed those monuments. They want to get rid of George Washington. It's like as if black people in history never committed a crime. What about all the monuments for other people?
Well, they're not acknowledging the crimes that are being committed for these officers to lash out.
Exactly.
It's just all, they're innocent when they got records, they got crime, they're committing a crime to be dealing with the police. No one acknowledges that, so it's no wonder. It's like it's crazy, but it's hopeful because there are a lot of people who are black that acknowledge these things. There's not as much, but they exist. Like David Harris Jr. is out there speaking the truth. Joel's out there speaking the truth. Jesse Lee Peterson's out there speaking the truth. Larry Elder.
Officer Tatum
for sure.
And he just had a great little thing that he showed me in a video. Officer Tatum grew up in the hood.
Right, and he used to have that same mentality.
Right.
And he woke up and he saw it as a calling, as that it was a blessing, and it was a rebirth of himself because he can see the difference.
He had a great example of how in the black community, which you can see with George Floyd and every other person they hold up as a martyr. He saw, because he had drug dealers in his family. I believe he said his father was a drug dealer. He grew up in a bad neighborhood with people who were living wrong. And Tatum said that they would always throw a bigger party for the family member who was getting out of jail or prison than they would for the black family member who was graduating college, or for him when he graduated the police academy. They call their most successful members of the community, the Ben Carsons, the Jesse Lee Petersons, they call them Coons and Uncle Toms. And everyone else who's doing crime and living as a career criminal, they hold them up as the next Martin Luther King. Daytona Beach. This could be paramedic. That's right.
To accept, press 1. To send a voicemail, press 2.
What's up, Para?
Hey, how are y'all?
I'm well.
How are you?
Doing fine.
So you said you had a story for us.
Am I on?
Yeah, you're on.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so I had a preacher lie to me.
A preacher?
And that, yeah, preacher.
Well, most preachers lie these days, anyways.
Yeah, but it was, first time that I was aware of it, so that was kind of spooky.
What did he lie about?
Well, long story short, I own a business and I provide a service, and I talked to him about servicing the church that he works at, and learned from different people about numbers because, I had sent someone else, because I was just trying to, help someone else out by referring him to another service, and yeah, but y'all have some real bad feedback coming through the YouTube stream.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's I played guitar. Yeah, there's a real high pitch. I mean, it's low. Most people won't pick up on it either. But
Oh.
It's probably the computer.
Yeah, it's probably this
yeah,
laptop
it's
here.
gnarly.
There's a
Yeah.
fan play. Yeah, there's a fan on there.
I have heard that.
Yeah. All right, right on. But yeah,
question for you, Para. Before I forget, Isaac Palmer was in the chat earlier.
Oh, that's
Isaac,
what's
I'm
up.
still watching.
What's up, Isaac?
He had a question for Trevor and us, and I want to ask you before we give our take. He wants to know, if I remember, he said, do you think that we're heading towards a civil war?
Yes.
What's your take, Para?
Not really. No.
You don't think we're headed to one?
Nah, I don't think we're heading towards a civil war.
How not?
Y'all?
I do. I think we're already in the midst of one. It might not be violence per se right now, but it's already a war, and it ain't civil.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like, it's been a wild, since December last year, it's been a wild 6 months, you know, like, doing the whole forgiven thing and everything that I'm reflecting on, and I can't imagine, you know, where y'all live. Like, it sounds like hell on earth, like a big city, and everything is being defaced and destroyed, and I don't think it's going to be a civil war, though, you know? I mean...
Well, the only thing we can do, because we don't really know for sure, but all we can do is prepare, you know? That's why I recommend getting armed, and so you can prepare for evil to make its way to destroy, because there's already destruction happening. There's already people in power that are, you know, accepting evil as wrong, and I can't underestimate evil. I'm definitely on the side of good and love and what's right, but we have to prepare, you know, like, I mean, you don't want to look up and be like, oh, I didn't see it coming.
Yeah, that's what I've been telling people. Why I've encouraged the bond ladies again. It's a great example, because it's not about trying to fearmonger. It's not like I'm running around with a chicken with a head cut off. But too many people, because you're in that fallen state, we have a false sense of security. We have a false faith in the state and in the world, in material things, and we didn't actually have faith in God. And He doesn't fight our battles for us. He does lead us and reveal things that would help us. But we have to be able to do for self. We should all be gun-owning Americans. We should all be trained. We should all have our head on our shoulders. We should know what to do in an emergency situation. And it's best to be prepared for the worst, and of course, hope for the best.
Yeah, you know, it's real neat, and it's a cool practice that I think everyone should do. I think everyone should have, like, a tourniquet in their vehicle.
Yes.
Like,
How about what?
Tourniquet.
like more often, like, Civil War or not, you know, like, you know, maybe you, like, show up and, you know, there's a car accident, or, you know, like, you show up on a workplace accident. I don't know, I work outside, you know, around large machines, and, man, you know, it's kind of common for accidents to happen, but, you know, everyone should have a tourniquet, so that'd be cool. But,
Well, for
Y'all have
those
a
that
great
don't know
show.
what that is, what is it? How would you describe it?
what, a tourniquet?
Yeah, if people don't know what that is.
Oh, yeah, true. Good point.
It's just something that you wrap around a limb or something to stop bleeding.
Yeah, you tighten it up, like it could just be a piece of, like a belt, when if you got a shot in the leg or something.
Belts are okay, but you know.
Yeah, no, but
the
as an example, so they can picture.
Israeli tourniquets are great.
No, just so they can picture what it does. It's like a belt.
Right.
You would wrap it to cut.
Everyone who's ever seen any movies where someone got shot, they're like, "Quick, take off your shirt!" And
Yeah,
wrap
they
it
tie
around
it
and
to
tie
cut
it
off the
up.
blood flow so you don't bleed out. And you're absolutely right. I took paramedic. I got certified as a paramedic, EMT.
He's a nurse.
I was a nurse, and I didn't end up doing much work in that field, but I did take away the fact that everyone should have a bag and like a med kit in their truck or their car, and always be ready. You should have.
Absolutely.
Never know.
A small
Never
fire
know.
extinguisher, a small med kit, you know, tourniquet or so, you know. You'll never know. You might be able to save someone's life one day.
Exactly.
For sure, man. Well, I appreciate it, bro, and thanks for sharing your
Yeah,
opinion.
man. Y'all have a great night.
You too, bro.
Bye.
Good night, Para. Looks like we're getting some trolls in the chat.
I'm sure.
So, again, for the guys who are new, and it looks like Darnell and Tavares, look, this is open to all topics. But again, if you come in here with anger, that's what we're not here to do. We don't need to agree on anything. We're not here to make anyone agree with us. Just don't have anger. Let's see.
Marty White Man.
What's up, Marty Whiteband? What's your question for the night?
I really don't have a question. I was just calling. I've had a hard time getting through. This phone service is jacked up, man. Everybody's talking about it all over the nation. They're all talking about this phone.
So, question, Marty. Since you don't have a question, I'm going to ask you a question. Do you think we're heading toward civil war?
Well, I don't know if we are, but if we are, there's a lot of people that are prepared, and I always tell people I'm a redneck in the city because I am a redneck, and I'm in the city. So there are several of us. I mean, I've run into a few, but I don't really know. You know what I mean? I mean, you can't really predict that, right?
But no, we can't predict anything. We're not God, so we can never predict it.
Yeah. So I don't really know, but I do see that society's on edge, and so people are ready to do something. So I mean, I don't know if it's going to be civil war, but people are ready to do something. I love when Trevor did Michael McDonald. Forget love anymore. When he did that,
Yeah.
that was freaking pretty cool.
Well, just to leave room open before we lose too much time, Marty, if you don't have any questions, we're going to move on to the next caller.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, thanks, buddy,
Thanks for the call,
in.
bro.
Okay, I'll talk to you later, man.
Bye, buddy.
All right. Bye.
So yeah, looks like we got some people with that seem a little intense. So again, for Tavares and Darnell, just relax. We only got one line to call when we're doing this show.
What are they angry about?
He's like, I'm trying to call, pick up.
Oh.
So it's obviously obvious you have some emotion, but that's fine. The point is, this whole show is about talking about stuff. Just leave the anger at the door. We're not here to force anyone to agree with anything. Has anyone read the post titled "America, We Are Leaving" by Travis Yates? It was posted last Friday. That's from Andreas, our black Bond brother out in Riverside, Inland Empire area. I have not read that post. If you can send it, DM it to the Bros and Cons IG page, that would be great. I would like to take a look at it, if you have a link. He said, okay, that's fine. Good guy. Let's see what else. So they missed the point. He's like, you keep saying my name, I'm angry. It's not, again, there's a big difference when saying you're angry and just making a disclaimer that the show is not about anger. So again, out of the feelings, no one's accusing anyone of everything. Amazing.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't have the chat. I don't know.
So let's see what else we missed. There's a big super chats from Catherine Payne and Jen.
Thank you, Catherine. Jen?
Jen.
Jen, thank you, Jen.
She's the one who brought her cousin to church.
That was awesome to meet you.
Yeah, Aiden. She was watching the show and she shared how she also wants to be a sandwich maker now. You know, and that's the joke that I like to push. It's just about, a joke about women's roles in the home when they are married, and some may think it's sexist, but there is no such thing as an ism anyway. So it just means play your role. The man should be out there leading, hunting the food to bring it back, and the woman should be caring for the
At
home.
the end of the day, not all men are husband material, and not all women are wife material. And if they don't want to become that, then don't do it. I mean, a lot of people get into a relationship and want to get married just because of how each other make them feel. Oh, you make me feel good. Like if you're insecure and you want to, find somebody who gives you compliments all the time and makes you feel beautiful or whatever. Everyone has their own different reasons, but there's real love out there, man, and that real love comes from God, comes down. It comes from above and comes down through the man in his logic, and then he's able to
Hold on
love
for
his
1
woman
second.
properly, to lead her into his logic. But people these days are so seduced by the emotions, they don't realize that the emotional state of mind is where Satan is. That's where you're deceived, where illusions are, where you get this false sense of feeling and suffering. When if you're present and you're in your logic and you just take on what's in front of you and deal with it day by day, that's how you overcome, become powerful in your life, and that's all through God, man. It's not through emotions and feeling. They want you to make you think that love is a feeling, and then it's feelings are selfish. At the end of the day, and love is not selfish.
All right, so
Who's that?
who's that? Who's there?
Who that is? Who that is be answering that phone?
Who's that?
That sounds like Skip McBurney.
Oh, what's up, Skip?
Hey, how y'all doing?
Doing good, man. If that ain't a country boy, I don't know what is.
At that point in country, that just ain't no country.
Country. You must like Taylor
Hey, look
Swift.
here.
No.
So Tavares Smith said, what's up?
Oh, Tavares. That's my homie Tavares.
Oh, good.
What's cracking, bro?
Call in, Tavares. Again, no one's accusing you of having it, but from Darnell's side, just sense a little bit of intensity there for newcomers. So just wait. Once Skip's off the line, if you could hang on, I'd love to have you on. The number is working, but we can only take one call at a time. But hang on, please. Go ahead, Skip. Sorry, what's your question for us tonight?
Well, I was going to kind of hit on that race war you talked about. Your rednecks down here in the South, they talk about it all the time. They've always talked about it. And but there's never been anything brewing like it is right now. Everything we see in the news now is about race. The coronavirus is on hold because of race tensions, and so is that going to make it a lot? Is that going to really push us more closer to a race war?
I think that's what they want.
Yeah, I think it's what they want.
Yeah.
You ever heard of control? You ever heard of controlled chaos? The government allows starts enough stuff to where it's under control, but they like that chaos going on. They don't want us to be free and living a good life. They always want something to be under the weather, and something always going on. So we always be looking to the government to be our savior. They're gonna save us. They're gonna protect us. Like 9/11, and then what happened at 9/11? They took a bunch of rights away from us.
Exactly. They want the government to either be the father or the government to be your God. And that's what I noticed too, especially with like welfare and stuff like that. They said, hey, if you could prove, that there's no father in the home, we'll be your dad and we'll pay you, if you could prove it. And so that's an incentive to get rid of the father, which has happened. And it's getting rid of, because there's that order, there's God in Christ, Christ in man, woman, and children. And if you can get rid of the man, which has been created in God's image, then you can eliminate God altogether and his logic. And I think that that's what's happening, man, for sure.
I don't know how the welfare system is set up with the housing, but I do remember this one black guy that used to work with me at the mobile home plant, and he was living with his mom there in the housing project, and he said he was gonna have to kind of stay away from the house some during the day, because they're gonna be doing house checks to see who all's living there, because if the husband's there or the boyfriend's there or the kids or whatever, the grown kids, then they'll kick them out. And of course they can't have that,
Yeah, the occupancy checks.
They got to meet these qualifications so the government will take care of them. And it's not set up. It's not set up to benefit the people that live there. It's set up to keep a division between the family.
Skip, can you speak up a little bit? It's kind of hard to hear you.
Okay. I had the phone away from me a little bit. I said, that the welfare system isn't set up to really help people so much as it is to cause division between the family members, because they can't actually live together in a comfortable setting, because they're not supposed to be there together. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's kind of just still hard to hear you a little bit, but But what was that?
Oh, hold on.
Yeah. Come back to
Hey,
your
is that
phone.
better?
Much
Yeah, it's
better.
I did the forbidden no. I had it on speakerphone.
You know the Nick. Get the phones.
Mm-hmm.
You know the deal. No speaker.
You know, I pulled it off about 3 or 4 times. The first few times I called Jesse. And those speakerphone worked pretty good. And then I didn't have any furniture in the living room, and it had a bad echo in it. And you could hear it real good on the speakerphone. It busted me out, so I didn't do it no more. And I felt kind of, believe it or not, 54 years old, I felt bad about lying about that, being on the speakerphone and not being on the speakerphone.
Yeah, you gotta do what's right.
Hey, let me ask you something. Have you put much consideration in Jesse's biblical question this week?
Would you lay your life down for your enemy? And if so, what does that mean?
Yeah, I thought about it, man, and I
Alright.
think the answer is that if you love what's right, or at least my answer, if you love what's right along with nothing else, and you see something wrong and you stand up for what's right, that could mean that you lay your life down for your enemy, and that doesn't mean that you're gonna kill yourself for your enemy. It just means that you're not gonna be in fear. At least that's how I interpret it. You're not gonna be in fear, and that if there's wrong happening, even towards your enemy, you will stand up against it and fight for it, even if it means that it's risking your life, you know?
Yeah, I got the picture that, again, I'm not big on hypotheticals, but, it's not that you're going to voluntarily give up your life for somebody, but that if you're standing up for what's right, and it's revealed, and in a moment, somebody who maybe politically or religiously would be considered your enemy, but if you see them at risk of being killed or something, and you could do something about it, which may put you at risk. If it's the right thing to do, it's the right thing to do. So in that sense, yes. But it doesn't mean that I would go out there and just let my enemy kill me. It just means that, if you gotta do what's right, and it may put you at risk, but, if you don't do it, you'd be doing the wrong thing, then yeah, I suppose you should lay down your life for your enemy.
Well, about 15 years ago, that question was posed to a group of us, a group of guys that was kind of, helping some other guys to prepare to do speeches and public speaking. And they picked that actual topic there about laying down your life. And even though we were helping them, we still wrote out a speech or wrote out a talk, to give an example with. And let me tell you what I gather from it. Where it says lay down your life. Do you know a lot of people, their personal life, they'll love their personal life so much that when they see a brother or a sister in Christ in need of something, they won't put down that Saturday college football game or that NFL game on Sunday to go help them when they really need it. Their life comes before them regardless. So I kind of feel like when you're laying down your life, you're laying down things that mean a lot to you personally. You'll lay down things that mean a lot to you to help somebody in need.
And see,
Putting your life to
what
the
you're
side.
saying, right? What you're saying right there, I resonate with that because, I'm a musician and an artist, and me speaking up about what I see as true out of love, right? I'm laying down my life on the line, even for my enemies, because, all the people that I thought were my friends, they see me as, hateful or angry or racist or whatever that is, when I really am coming from a place of love, because anything that I want for myself is what I want for other people. And I don't see anybody speaking up about, very many people speaking up about families and starting new generations with having a father in the home, having, morals and values and characters and getting married and all those kind of things. And for whatever it is that's called me to speak on it and be unafraid and risk and lay my life on the line, where my career's on the line, my friendships, my network and everything. For some reason, man, I really want to do what's right. And I don't hear enough people saying this type of thing, and so I feel this sense of that I have to speak up for it. I got to stand up for it.
Yeah, he nailed it right there with that, which is, in speaking the truth, you are risking your life because the world will come attack you, because that spirit wants to turn people against you. It wants to turn your friends, your what you thought were friends when you were in that state, it wants them to hate you, judge you, take what you said out of context, and not try to understand where you're coming from. We have if those people could only see and be a fly on the wall and see how many diverse people we have as friends, real friends, and that we don't always agree on every position, they would understand there is no hate here. I love everybody just the same, but it does not mean you compromise your values.
And the friends I've lost are not friends I cut off. You know, they're friends that cut me off, but I don't hate them for it.
But check this out. After I wrote up something on it, I got to thinking more, and it kind of was a deep thought all during the day. What actually does it mean? And do I lay down my life for somebody else? You know, whether they're a friend or not. Do I go out of the way if they need some help? If they broke down in the car and they got my number, they give me a call and ask me if I'll come help them get the car going and give them a ride where they need to go. Well, I stopped watching that Georgia football game long enough to do it. My personal life, well, I'll lay down my life to helping somebody mean more to me than that Georgia football game or the Falcons or whatever. Am I going to lay down my personal life, my comforts, the things that I look forward to doing to help somebody that has a problem? And then I started noticing I got more phone calls, for little small things. Can you give me a ride? Can you do this? Can you jump my truck off or whatever? And it always seems to be at unopportune times that I really didn't want to do it. I could do it, but I didn't want to do it because, that's my personal time, and I want to enjoy my personal time. So I started, making a point that, that football game doesn't mean nothing. I can always record it and watch it later. It doesn't mean nothing if they win or lose. But if I don't, so somebody go over and hit that guy and get his car crunk up, that's going to be a problem for him. So
you
I
say
started
go to
laying
the
down
trunk?
my life.
You say when you go to the trunk, there's going to be problems?
Do what?
Did you say when the guy goes for the trunk that's when you know there's going to be problems?
No, there wasn't no problems. The problem was I didn't want to give up what I was doing to help somebody.
Gotcha.
Right.
When they needed help, and I started, regardless of what I was doing, if I wasn't working involved or something, I wouldn't quit cutting the grass and go help somebody. I said, when I get through cutting the grass, I'll ease over there and help you out. But I started realizing I found more peace in my life by not being so wrapped up in my own life and helping others that needed help, or being that somebody needs me. Instead of my life. I'm gathering, laying down your life. Laying down your life don't mean you're going to run, jump. You're going to be walking up and down the streets looking for somebody that's going to walk out in front of a car so you can jump out in front of them and lay your life down for them. That's not what it means at all. It means you got to lay down your personal life, this worldly life. It's not important at all.
That's a great answer.
Maybe somebody's going through a divorce or something, and the guy's having a hard time, and he really needs somebody to talk to, somebody's going to listen to him and get some good advice. Are you willing to quit watching football or whatever you got planned for that day to go help somebody that's really in need? Are you willing to lay down your life to do that? Because that's your personal life. Are you willing to put your life to the side to go help somebody that's, having problems or whatever? To me, that's what it means to me.
Yeah.
Laying down my personal life.
That's a good answer.
Things that mean a lot to me. It really don't mean that much anyhow.
Well, thank you, Skip. That was pretty well said, man.
Yeah, thank you, bro.
I can't deny it.
I can't deny it.
Just for time's sake, so we see if we can get Tavares on the line. We're gonna go on to the next caller, Skip.
Hey, that's good.
But thank you.
That's good.
And that was a hell of an answer.
That was a hell of a drug.
Thank you, Skip.
Well, I'll
And
talk to y'all guys later.
and keep us posted on the hip, the progress with the hip.
All right, buddy.
Okay. God bless you, Skip.
You're a real hitman. He's always hip with the times.
Skip the hitman heart. All right, Tavares, if you are still with us, my friend, please call in. Tavares Smith. Tavares. if you are still here, let me type your name in. Alright, Tavares Smith, you are up. Let's see if we missed anything in the chat. Raymond says, Trevor, you might not want to put that near your crotch region. Stop smoking pot and get off your mama's couch. I can't say you're wrong. Skip is a sling blade for real. Mm-hmm. Black on, sorry. Skip is a prophet for chicken bones.
If I put it near my crotch, just know that it's always going to be aiming to his crotch, not mine. I mean, it might be in this vicinity, but the barrel's aimed at him.
So Dexter Darden is in the chat. He had a comment that says, "You do not understand saying support black business doesn't mean we won't support white businesses. We are just saying it's about time black-owned businesses got the same amount of public appreciation."
But see, I've never looked at businesses as a racial. Race is never what motivated me to support any business. Any business I've ever supported was either a personal friend of mine, or because I needed a product, or the food was good, or whatever. And so when I open up like Amazon Prime, right? I open up Yelp or open up anything. It says, it's basically selling me the race, the race of the business as opposed to the business itself. Because anyone who has a quality, like if you're going to be equal, right? It's going to be about the product, and if it's a good product, you're going to want to use it because it's a necessity in your life. I'm going to be like, oh man, toilet paper or whatever it is. It's like, I need to wipe my ass. This is a good brand because it's soft. Wow, I like it. I'm not going to be like, wow, well, this brand of toilet paper is, an Asian business and I want to support Asians, so I'm going to get this one even though I don't like it. Like, that's just not how business is. Like, there's a difference between, there's a reason why people say don't mix business with personal. And when you start mixing, race with business, because what's going to happen, man, is America is a melting pot with different races and cultures. You set the precedence of that where you start to do business with somebody based off of the ethnicity and race of it. Later down the line, other people are going to want to do the same thing, and it's going to be like, oh, well, they did it, when it should just be equal across the board. If you want to support whatever business for whatever reasons you have, that's fine. But when the whole world is selling it to you as support this business because of the race it is, I don't resonate with that because I've never had that type of thinking.
I would say that when you said that they need to get the recognition that they deserve or something along those lines, what you're implying is that they don't have the same means of opportunity to pay for ad space. There are plenty of mom and pop Asian shops, white shops, Armenian shops that don't have the millions of dollars to pay for a Super Bowl ad or any of that big ad space, and that is not an issue of race.
And
if you can't pay for it, you can't pay for it. It's not. So the implication is that somehow they're being purposely covered up or blocked from people's view. It's just a business. The media wants you to think it's racial, and that's the trap.
I'm like a very creative person, and to be honest, I suck at business. I suck at building a business and a brand and all those things because my mind doesn't work that way, and it has nothing to do with my skin color. I'm not very good at running my business, right? And I'm trying to figure it out, just like anybody else. And it has nothing to do with my skin color, because I've heard people say, I left a post up today, and a lot of people misunderstood it, and a lot of people understood where I was coming from with it. And it's just, there's everybody's an individual, and every business is an individual. Some people are born into a family where they get to take over their parents' business, right? Where it's already going, and they get to just, learn it, and then they know how to do business. I didn't grow up with any of that stuff. I suck at business. But I can acknowledge it, and I want to overcome that. Who that?
Yeah, keep talking. Zeke.
I want to overcome that so that I can know for myself. And to me, it just seems backhanded, because I got real love, man, and I love black people. And so to me, it seems like it's portrayed as though because they're black, they need a special handout, a special leg up.
Handicap.
Exactly, like like saying, oh, because they're black, oh, check this out over here because they're black. And to me, it rubs me wrong because, and it's not because I'm white and I'm jealous. It has nothing to do with any of that stuff. It has to do with me seeing that if it was the opposite, if it was white people doing that, I would feel just the exact same way. Because it has nothing to do with a race. It's like, oh, I would never buy a keyboard based off of the race of who was creating it because I wanted to support them. Buying something stems from something that benefits me. I'm spending my money on something because I need or want it. It's not like I'm going to spend my money because of the ethnicity or race. I don't understand.
All right, so we got Zeke on the line. Zeke, I want to ask you. This is a good question. I forgot the name of the guy who posted it. But what is your take on what we're discussing, which is the issue of this massive corporate, international, big money investment and endorsement of, support black-owned business across all social media platforms and everything. They're telling people, they get special treatment, no delivery fees, all that stuff. What's your take on that?
Well, I think it's kind of messed up because it starts with the assumption that we're, like the majority of people are discriminating against blacks in general.
Right. And that's a good point because, I've been around in a lot of black circles and I've spent a lot of money on black businesses, but I've never spent money on black businesses because I thought, well, they're black, I better spend money and give them money. No, it was because it was a good product, because they were really talented at whatever they did. Or I went to their show or whatever it was. It was never out of pity, and I just don't like the pity sense of it.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I mean, I own a company, and a black man manages it because he's the best person I know for the job.
Right. That's awesome.
And I don't go, oh, it's because he's black, I'm going to hire him or not hire him.
Right.
I'm like, man, this guy kills it more than the next guy. It has nothing to do with skin color whatsoever.
Yeah. And
if
the people that are
perpetuating that lie,
it takes away from
blacks more than anything.
The black people who are great in their life and successful and have businesses and whatever they're doing. It's taking away from them. Like, they're gonna be like, well, are you saying that I didn't earn this myself and I just got it because I'm black? Like,
totally.
And it's like out of love, and it's crazy that it's flipped or turned around. Like, oh, you're racist for saying that. You don't want to support black business. Of course, I want to support black businesses, but I'm not trying to promote it
because they're black.
Exactly, promote the business. You should get this food or buy this product because they're black, and then you're like, well, I don't really need this item, but you're
it's
black.
It's the same thing as affirmative action, where the issue is, it has nothing to do with, oh, you don't want black people to get a job. No. It's let the most qualified man get it. And what the media has done with affirmative action, for example, they want people to ignore the fact that blacks are a minority percentage of the population. And they're pushing this idea that if you want true equality, they have to be represented as if they were 50% of the population. That's the lie there. They will naturally, because they're a smaller group of people, of course there's going to be less of them in different positions, just like there will be less Indians, there will be less, the feather or the red dot Indians, there will be less Salvadorians because they're not a big majority. But that's not a racist thing, it's just a numbers thing.
Totally, and they love bending those numbers to preach their narratives. They build their whole house of cards on lies.
And when you say they, it makes me think of the Democrats.
Yeah, but I mean, I kind of go deeper. I don't think we're warring against a battle of flesh and blood. We're warring against battle of spirits and high places.
Right.
When I say they, I say all of them after, the spirit of the devil. But yeah, Democrats tend to fall into that camp.
I find it interesting that, like, any democratic state that's ran by Democrats is the one that has the most poverty, the highest taxes, and it's like LA. I'm from here, and I've watched it just go down the drain. With I pay crazy income tax, sales tax, property tax, whatever. We're taxed up the yang, and we don't have anything to show for it. The roads are all messed up. It's like, it's crazy, man. And then now they want to take the police away from you. I got that Citizen app, like I've said, and I got notified like 3 times today about a stabbing, a shooting, robbery, all within a mile from where I live. And people hit me up and be like, how would you get a gun? It's like, what else am I going to do? If I call the police, they're not going to show up.
Here's a good point from Andreas, and
Yeah.
Ziggy, you could tell me what you think about it. So Andreas he's black, and he said, to be honest, most blacks have the same selling point as Obama because they're black. The best products and services at the best prices get the most business. If
Right.
the owners are black, so be it. If not, so be it.
Right. That's what I'm saying, man. I don't want people to buy my music because I'm white.
Go ahead, Z.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous. I'm actually a touring musician myself, and
Nice.
I tour everywhere, outside the country, everywhere in the country. And I try to explain to people, I live in Georgia, and Georgia's way less racist than, like, a Democratic-run place. People always have this, like, misconception of like, oh, man, you live in the South, man, it must be really bad there. I'm like, no, it's actually much weirder here in New York or weirder in LA.
Oh yeah, it's way weirder.
The perception is so backwards and opposite from people that it's just like it's so clear to me that they don't have eyes to see or ears to hear what's going on, and so they're under a spiritual spell.
Yeah, and I know that for a fact because I can reflect on my life and see that I was under that same spell.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, I was under it at a time too, myself. I mean, luckily when I got into politics, I didn't ever go to the Democratic side, but then at the same time, I was fooled by some Republicans when I was younger, and I was like, oh, they're part of the same group.
Yeah.
The George Bushes and all that. But, there's a lot of lies. It's a battle between good and evil, between lies and truth, man.
Yeah.
And when people wake up, they can't go back to sleep. They see it because the facts are on the side of those who are right.
For sure.
So anybody who wants to really look into it, I was looking into some studies, and it was something crazy. Like, it's more likely to get killed by a black person if you're a white person by 55 times.
Yeah, that's
And if you take
It's
that
huge.
number, right, and you realize that, okay, most of the people that are violent and stuff are the men, right? So if the black population makes up 13%, including women and children, that leaves like probably 7 to 8%.
actually 4 to 6 because it's usually a certain age group too.
4 to 6 or whatever you could say. That percentage is in the whole. Like, there's way more white people, so there has to. The news doesn't show this stuff, man. They don't talk about the real statistics from the FBI, and I don't say it out of hatred or anger. It's just out of truth, and it comes down to the family.
Not hatred.
It comes down
My
to the
point is
family
there
and how
is
you're
no
raised.
racism. White people love black people.
Exactly.
Like, that is our country. I go everywhere. I don't know one white person that openly doesn't like black people.
Right.
And, like, usually it's the other way around. Like, white people, if a white person had, like, 10 friends and they were all just as nice and one was black, they'd probably prefer to hang out with the black one because it's more exotic to them or something. People tend to prefer a well-mannered black person over a well-mannered white person. If anything, I say there's the opposite racism going.
No, for sure, man. I agree that, it's like, you don't hear white people saying, oh, well, you ain't invited to the barbecue. Like
Yeah.
I was never invited to an all-white party. But I was invited to, a lot of all-black parties and kind of rubbed it in my face like, oh, like, I'm the novelty white guy and I should be grateful that I got to be there.
Yeah, but usually, I mean, because I grew up in a place where whites were the minority. Usually when you're the only white guy at a black party, you're cool. Because they're like, oh, man, you're brave.
No, of course, no, and that's how I always received it. And I'm not saying that out of resentment or anything like that, but the double standard of it, of the white people are portrayed that they don't like black people or anything like that. And in my life, I have not experienced being around white people, and white people have always spoke, highly of black people. They like black people. Maybe, like, I remember 10 years ago, like, with my friends who were black, like, they'd always want to hear racist jokes, and we'd all laugh, and it was no big deal. And now it's like people are so sensitive about everything. I don't know how it went from, just like Jesse, our pastor, who grew up under the Jim Crow laws. He's a black man. He said that, like, back then, there was more families, right? The black people had more family, and they had more own businesses and everything how did it go from that time where the laws are messed up to having more solid families and businesses to to going down the line where now there's less. There's 78% is born out of wedlock, and you know there was never like gangs and stuff like that. Like hip hop and rap kind of the whole civil rights movement like kind of like played a part in that. Like where did gangs come from? Where did that come from? That wasn't always a thing.
Well, you know what it is? You're either run by two things, either love or fear. You're either run by the love of our Creator, or you're run by the fear of the devil. And when you take the father out of the home, you create an insecure, fearful kid. And that's what's happened to the black community. And they don't have that father figure who's supposed to represent God and their family to them. And so they grow up insecure. And, you know, what happens when you're around an insecure dog, they bite. They become violent because they're scared.
Yeah.
And people think that, you know, it comes out in many different ways, anger, violence, but really they're scared, they're insecure, they're being run by fear because they didn't have that stability of a father figure in their life.
And what happens is, and I know this for myself, my parents were together and they did their best. They weren't perfect. When my dad was, you know, I'm not throwing him under the bus, but it's like my dad didn't protect us kids from my mom's emotions, right? So I understand that, like, as a man, right, I came from a woman, my mom. And so I naturally had, you know, being a man, and then I had a feminine nature that my mom imposed onto me, right? And now I know for myself that becoming a man and entering manhood means that you overcome that feminine emotional spirit so that you could become masculine, and then you could find a woman that you can help lead her from her emotions and into your logic. And I didn't realize that the anger I had was imposed onto me from my mom, and I had that emotional spirit. And the world tries to teach people that, a real man feels all his feelings and is emotional and can be. They teach you the opposite of it. When, you know, I'm not saying to run away from your feelings or anything, but you realize that they're all lies.
Yeah, like what you said.
Yeah, totally.
What you said about how. Well, basically, it's if you've been told your whole life since childhood, and you're raised by parents who are also told the same lie, that you are always a victim, no one's ever going to give you a fair shake, it's the white man's fault. It puts a chip on your shoulder. And I grew up with a lot of friends, and a lot of them were black, and a lot of them did have a chip on their shoulder. They had a problem with authority, and when they got caught doing something wrong, I would remember distinctly that instead of copping to it like most kids would, even if they didn't cop to it, there would be extra anger there. They were a little more angry, a little more aggressive because they were already told that you're going to be singled out. You know, they'll never give you a fair shake. So when you look through that lens, you see everything as being racist against you. And it's not a way to live your life. It doesn't mean that there's not hate out there. But you try to see that lens on everything,
It
it's
goes back to
bad.
that insecurity thing. You know, the Bible says, if God be with you, who can be against you? You know, it's that security that you have living in the truth that knows that the whole world could be against you, but you're okay. And you can take it. And that's what gives you strength and peace and makes you not angry.
Yeah.
But I was just like you, man. I became my mom. I didn't realize it until, you know, I was past my mid-30s. That holy crap, I've been my mom my whole life.
No, exactly, bro.
I had to forgive my mom and learn how to be a man.
Yes, same here, man. Because it was always easier for me to find blame and kind of figure out intellectually in my mind why it was someone else's fault, or there was some barrier that had nothing to do with me. And now it's like I'm still overcoming. You know, I want to be strong and empowered in my life. And the thought of becoming a man and blaming anybody else for where my life is at, I don't want to be that. You know, I want to be able to, you know, there's so many examples of successful people in the world of all ethnicities that there's no reason why we all have equal opportunities because there's no laws holding anybody back. But we're not going to have equal outcome because at the end of the day, it's going to come down to what we put in. You know, of course, a bit of luck, which is, you know, where you are at the right time. And it has to do with being prepared, right? If you have a skill set and you're prepared and you're a master or whatever it is that you do, and then you go out there and try to, you know, network and all that stuff, you'll hit that, the stars will align, and then boom, something's going to happen. And it's going to snowball into something else.
Yeah, it's the same as a girl living her life, having a bad father as an example, and then, you know, like we all know that joke that, you know, like daddy girl, you know, girls who have daddy issues, they end up falling for all that same stuff. They're more sexual, they have more partners, Most guys, when they're in that fallen state, they know how to hit on a girl like that, and it all stems from them having a negative opinion about men based on their negative opinion about their father, and it can change your entire life if you hold on to that anger and that opinion. And the reason why you should boil it down to good and evil is because you cloud it when you say racism or sexism or any ism, and you forget to just look at it. Is this guy just being evil? Is this woman just being good or not? You know, like, that's the best way to see it, and you don't try to throw blame on an entire group of people.
Right.
Yeah.
Just like
Because if you want to believe something hard enough, you can find the evidence. It might not be true evidence, but if you're searching for it all the time, then you're going to find it.
no, exactly. You seek and you shall
look at all
find.
this racist crap. I mean, most of it's all really, really bad evidence. I mean, some of it's legit, where you find a bad cop being a bad cop, but we don't even know if that's racist.
Right.
But the vast majority of it is just a cop doing his job the right way, where people are breaking the law and being violent, and an officer is forced to shoot them, and people use that as evidence. So people are going to make up evidence if they really, really want to believe something.
I know, like, right, how I was raised, right? If I was to try to fight or put my hands on a cop no matter what, that's inviting myself to be, whatever happens to me, I brought that onto myself. That's just the way I've always seen it with cops, is that they're the authority. If I broke the law, if I'm in the wrong, and I especially try to, you know, not just run away, but try to fight them. Like, I know, like, I brought whatever came my way onto myself.
Yeah, that whole incident with the gentleman that just happened in Atlanta, you know, it's the same thing. That they're turning this guy into a martyr, and any loss of life is tragic, but the root issue was him, his actions, him serving the wrong spirit, and there's no justifying fighting back. If you're guilty, you should let them arrest you and take you in. But he had just got out of prison. Yeah. He was.
Nobody made that guy get drunk. Nobody made that guy pass out.
Why he had no reason to fight back.
Fight the cops.
And what if he had grabbed their service pistol? What if he didn't grab the taser? What if he grabbed the pistol? He still had the intent to shoot at them, and that's the issue here. And we shouldn't feel bad for that. We should just recognize it and say, hey, you know what? If I have a child, I'm going to tell him, don't do that. That's the wrong way to live. And unfortunately, it could end up getting you killed if you serve that spirit.
Mm-hmm. And you tend to run into your fears.
Yeah.
And, you know, he's engraved with all those fears that everybody's out to get him. Oh, it's the white man. He's out to get me. He's here now. Man, this is it. And because you fear it, you run into it. That's why you should fear nothing but the Lord.
You become,
whatever you fear,
you become what you resent.
You attract it like a magnet.
Exactly, man. Like, I know for myself, man, whenever you hate something or resent it, it creates a little space in your mind subconsciously where you're gonna be blind to see anything but that, because it's stuck there. It exists, and as soon as it's like Morgan Freeman said it in an interview or whatever, he says, you want to stop racism? Stop talking about it so much. Because the more, and of course I'm all for discussions and talking about instances, but I definitely see racism as a distracting word from good and evil and hate and anger. Because people who are racist are usually just angry, hateful people, and that's the bottom line. And when you talk about it being racist, it makes people hate a whole group of people, as opposed to just looking at the individual and whatever happened in that situation. These damn flies.
Totally. I mean, you could see it in real time because you become whatever you don't forgive. And you see all these black folks who are now being judgmental to a whole race of people because they didn't forgive a whole race of people for, in their mind, being judgmental to their whole race of people.
Right.
So they became what they never forgave.
Exactly.
Which, you know, in my mind, that can't be justified at all. But if you're smart enough to realize that it was evil before, then it's still evil now. Right.
But the intellectual mind wants so bad to try to justify, and people be like, oh, it's righteous anger. You know, it's justified, and that's Satan's trick, man. He's going to trick you and make you believe that you're right to be angry. Like, even if somebody comes and murders your family, you know, of course that's crazy, that's insane. But at the end of the day, being angry and hateful about it, you become that, and then you're going to go want to get revenge, and then you're no better. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. You become that which you hate. And I believe that God put that in us for us to learn from, to forgive.
Yeah.
And that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to forgive. One of my favorite parables is the king and the guy who owed a big debt to the king. And the penalty for owing that big of a debt to the king was that you would be killed. You'd be done. And he went and he begged for his life. And the good and righteous king, basically said, it's all right, it's going to be fine. And then that guy went and he found all the people who owed him money, and he started beating them and hurting them to get his money from them. And then the king found out about it, and he got, the penalty that was due for him owing the king money. And that's everything. Jesus died for us so we can be forgiven from our sins. And what we're called to do is to forgive others for their sins and to love them. And if we don't, then the debt might not be paid.
Yeah, and I see Jesus came in the flesh, as an example for us to see.
Whoever's calling from Ohio, hold off. We can only take one call at a time, so calling multiple times is not going to get you through. So, Mr. Ohio caller, wait till the line's open.
Jesus was an example for us to see that the flesh is capable of having God operate through us. And all the things that happened to him, he still never hated them.
Yeah.
And people like to bring up he flipped tables, he was angry. But at the end of the day, you don't know what's going on inside of somebody else, and sometimes there's something that you need to do to get the point across so that people take you seriously and listen to what you're saying. Just like a father who will raise his voice to his kids. It doesn't mean that he's angry or that the spirit behind him is that, but he's making sure that he's understood,
Yeah, and that was his father's house, so, he had all the right and authority to clean up his father's house. And just like we have the right and the authority if somebody tries to take our house, to get our gun out and do what we need to do to protect our house and our family. But yeah, nobody was beat up and hurt like Jesus was, and even those people who were hurting him, he was praying for them and telling God to forgive them.
Yeah.
He didn't have any resentment.
For sure, man.
Anyway,
Well, I appreciate the call, brother.
Other callers, y'all can kick me off anytime you want.
All right, thank you for calling, man.
Thanks,
appreciate
Zeke.
it.
Yeah, much love, you guys. Y'all doing a good thing.
You too.
Appreciate you.
Be well, bro. All right, Mr. Ohio, you gotta relax. That's exactly the spirit.
Make sure it's somebody that isn't a troll.
Let's see first. Hello, this is D. How are you doing tonight? Doing well.
This is flying.
What was your question for us tonight?
I just wanted to say something to you guys.
I'm sorry, what was that?
We sense.
Yes, go ahead. Yeah, what were you gonna say?
No, I just had I wanted to talk to you guys about a few things that you were saying, and I wanted to know if I'm on. Can both of you hear me?
I can hear you.
How you doing?
Hey, yeah. So basically, you guys have been saying some things, and that of course, a lot of people don't agree with, but of course, the majority of the people in here, I guess, follow you and they agree with you. But I just want to shed a light on something, and I don't expect you guys to understand what I'm going to say because it seems like both of you are pretty stuck in your ways. But I want to let you guys know one thing, that you two sitting there as white men cannot tell black people how to feel during this time, because you don't know. As much as Trevor goes to, black clubs and sings in black clubs and is a culture vulture, he does not know how it is as a black man to walk down the street in fear for his life when he sees a cop. He does not know when we see a siren behind us, the nervousness that we get. So you two sitting there saying how we feel about the George Floyd of it all and how we feel about anything, you guys don't have the right. And I don't think you can speak on that. So I think you should skip over that. Okay? And then another thing, you're talking about black-owned businesses and stuff like and supporting and all that other stuff.
Right.
Now, let me explain something to you. The black dollar stays in the black community for 6 hours. Okay, 6 hours. That's really fast. So we are just trying to say, hey, let's keep the black dollar in the community, especially for black people who are being killed at an alarming rate. Okay, we get killed quicker than anyone.
By
right?
who?
So why would we give our money? Now listen to me. Why would we give our money and just go spread it around and give it to anybody?
Okay.
So
well,
we want to support our fellow brothers and sisters.
Right.
We want to keep the black dollar in. Jewish people do it. Their dollar stays in the community for I think 20 days.
Right. We agree.
So
You
why
should be able
is
to
it
spend it how
an
you want.
issue if we do it?
Okay. Well, let us respond really quick before we. If there's 2 points you made. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
there's a lot of unpacking there, and when you.
Oh, and there's some other unpacking too. Wait,
Oh, that's
Okay,
fine.
well,
That's
hold on.
fine.
Let's
That's fine.
just try and tackle one at a time, or else we won't get anything out.
Yeah,
So-
that's fine. Well, I think one of the first things you said was that I don't have the right to tell black people how they should feel. I'm not I'm not trying to tell any person, no matter what race they are, how they should feel. All I can speak on is my own experience as a human being and sharing my testimony about anger and hatred and resentment and how at the end of the day, whatever. Hold on, let me finish. Let me say what I'm gonna say.
Let him get a point out. You gotta let us fellowship.
Because you're spewing hate on this chat.
Look, if you're not if you don't let people talk, how are we gonna have a discussion here?
At the end of the day.
Well,
hold on, let him finish.
At the end of the day, all I'm trying to do is explain my testimony about hatred and anger within myself and how I overcame that. Because no matter who it is, if I'm angry, hold on,
D, come on. If you want to have a discussion, we can have a discussion.
Yeah.
But you keep cutting people off, and we let you make
well,
your
I don't
points.
want to need you to stop trying to stick up for him.
No, it's not sticking up here. Do you want to have a discussion or not?
You want to talk about the black
well, we're
All
gonna
right.
hang up
Well, you know
on
what?
it
Thanks,
because,
D.
you know,
It was good talking to
yeah,
you.
Exactly.
Amazing. That's a strong black woman for
I
you.
mean, that's an example of anger. You know, like
There you go.
You can't. I just sat and listened to everything she had to say, and I was willing to listen to it and understand where she comes from. So, to make accusations, for one, she called me like a culture vulture. So if we're gonna get into culture vulturing, you know, I don't run around and be like, oh, a white person invented cars, so you driving a car makes you a culture vulture, or electricity. Oh, you're not allowed to have lights on in your house because white people. It's like, at the end of the day, the people that see me as a culture vulture instead of somebody who just appreciates black culture and black people and wants to celebrate it and keep that kind of music alive in whatever way I express it, then you obviously resent white people.
Yeah, the
the
very
end of the
fact
day-
you couldn't let someone get a point back, you asked to have a discussion. We want to talk. We're here to fellowship. And like you said, we don't have to agree. But you have anger, and you couldn't even sit still for 1 minute to let somebody get a point out.
That's
You just got to
because-
cut people off and cut people off.
That's because she doesn't want to listen.
Exactly.
She doesn't want.
You want-
She doesn't want to understand, and doesn't. She wants to come on here and call me names, you know, and instead of like discovering understanding.
Yeah,
And that's the whole point.
You
of
listen
this
to
whole thing.
me, but I don't listen to you.
And that's the whole point of this thing.
It's amazing. You know, like, we want to talk to you. That's exactly the kind of calls we want to have. We don't want people to agree with us. And like you said, the people here in this chat, they're not following us. They're their own people. They have difference of opinions. We don't agree on everything. And in fact, a good number of them are actually black, like yourself. And they don't agree with you. And even if we disagree on things, they have enough sense to sit there and have an actual discussion. You weren't having a discussion.
Yeah.
It's
At the end of the
amazing.
day, it's always going to come down to universal laws of nature. It has nothing to do with race or ethnicity. I'm trying to unpack what she said. She said some other things about.
And then she said the black business was about the black dollar not being in the community.
Right.
And like, with that issue, again, you're implying that has something to do with racism. If black people are not leaving their dollar in their community and spending it in their neighborhood, that's black people's problem. That is not, there's not a white man telling them, spend it at Walmart, spend it at the Apple store. So whose fault is that? It's always a family issue. Everything comes down to the root, family. If your family is messed up, then your whole community is messed up.
Yeah, I mean, no matter what race you are, ethnicity, whatever you want to call it, at the end of the day, a mother and a father growing up with morals and values and character, and not just teaching your kids with words, and telling them the right way, but being the living example so that they can be inspired and want to see the right way for themselves. That's missing in a lot of, the whole country. But I know, like, if you look at statistics, because you said something about, being afraid of being killed just walking down the street or whatever, and I asked by who, because the statistics will tell you that black people are killed mainly by other black people.
Yeah,
It's
that,
not-
that, that was what she said too. They get killed. And his question, by who? Over 95% of black homicides are committed by black men and women.
Like,
95%.
like I've been told my whole life, like if I had a gig, hold on,
Yeah, no.
if I had a gig in the hood or whatever, people would always tell me, my black friends would say, "Oh, be careful down there, oh, don't go by yourself, you're white," insinuating that because I'm white, I'm gonna have trouble in the hood, right? But I mean, you don't tell a black person, "Hey, be careful going into that white neighborhood, you might have trouble there." So it's just the double standard, man. Because at the end of the day, why is it that when black families or individuals become successful financially, they move out of the hood, they go live somewhere else, they go move into a white neighborhood or wherever they're going to live. They're not staying there. Like all these celebrities like Kobe or LeBron or whoever, they live in a totally different, like, why aren't they staying in the hood and making it better and keeping that dollar going, right? Like I just and I ask, like, with genuine trying to understand.
Okay, so here's Stephen Jones. And again, this is an example of twisting someone's words. Trevor's post was not against supporting black businesses. So just your summary right there is proof, just like the caller right now who had anger, couldn't sit still and actually have a discussion, let someone get a point across, have a rebuttal, go back and forth like civil people. You're twisting the words.
Yeah, and there was quite a few people who were on there. I had to go private because I was just getting, I feel like somebody reposted it or something that had a following and like, go light up this guy's page. That's what it seemed like, because all these people were coming at me. But that's a common thing that was happening, was people were saying, putting words in my mouth and remixing what I said, saying that I said not to support black-owned businesses. Absolutely not. Like I said, it's about the marketing businesses to go and buy a product because they're black. I don't resonate with that. I wouldn't do that with any race. I buy stuff because it's a good product, or I eat there because it's good food. And race has nothing to do with it. And like I said, if I were black, and I got a buddy, my best friend's black, no, but I got a buddy who is black, and he says the same exact thing, that it's an insult to him to say that, to imply that he can't, that you have to get his product because he's black, as opposed to you just liking the product and wanting to buy it. Anyways, I don't know. I can only say it so many times.
Yeah. So Stephen had to follow up and say that. What do you say? He
What happened to Tavares?
I'm not sure. So Tavares, if you're still around, please call in. I'd like to hear from you. But Stephen tried to say there's a huge economic wealth gap, and that whites use blacks to build their wealth via slavery. And so for that, Stephen, what you are failing to recognize is that at the peak of slavery and throughout the entire existence of slavery in America, Jews owned the majority of slaves. Jews owned the ships. They owned the slave trade. There was Arabs who were selling blacks overseas, as there were blacks selling blacks. And in fact, there were more white people sold into slavery during that same period, being sold through Africa and the Middle East, than there were black slaves brought to America. So if you have an issue with somebody, if you're going to have that mentality, then take it up with Jewish people, since their ancestors owned the entire trade pretty much, owned the auction houses, and owned the majority of slaves. Yet you have a problem with whites when they accounted, I think 95% of whites owned 0 slaves.
But look at, say you get caught by the cops for selling drugs, right? You could sell drugs, and it's more of an offense than it is to buy the drugs. So how come nobody cares that the Africans sold the slaves to the Arabs, and that they're still selling and owning slaves today? Nobody talks about the Arabs. The Arabs bought the slaves first, and then the white people bought the slaves from the Arabs. And then and who freed the slaves, right? No one cares about that. White people freed the slaves. But people only seem to care about the negative things, like anybody who talks about white people these days, it's always some negative connotation.
Right. It's just amazing. Like, first, learn your history. if you wanna say that he says we missed the point. If you think that the fact that Jews own the majority of slaves is missing the point, something's wrong with you because your whole anger is based on hating white people and you blame them for abusing blacks. How is that possible when they accounted for a fraction of the ownership and that the majority of whites in America had nothing to do with slavery? That they led the charge to end it. It would still be around today if it wasn't for white people. So your whole history has been changed. You don't understand when our school system and the publishing houses were taken over by communists who have twisted history to hide the real culprits. You think the people who actually own the slave trade are going to admit that? No, they threw the blame on white America, and you guys bought it hook, line, and sinker. It's amazing.
Like, when I hear people say culture vulture and stuff like that, it makes me think it's like, imagine if you created a song, right? You write a song, it's an original song you made, and then someone comes and covers that song. I write music and I made a song, right? And people do covers of it. It's like a compliment. It's the greatest compliment I could ever have is that someone came along and sang my song. Most of these people that call me a culture vulture don't even make music. They just want to take credit for their whole race, as opposed to, you know, they're not even a singer or make music at all, and they want to, like, just be nasty about it and turn it into a negative thing. But at the end of the day, I'm celebrating the artistry, you know? And I'm not even one that likes to keep score and credit, because at the end of the day, we don't create anything. We don't invent anything. God is the number one creator, and we just discover it, you know? Music has been an evolution of people, you know, mixing genres and making stuff, and so we can all enjoy it together. It's not about keeping score and being like, my people made this, and you're not allowed to use it. Like, I just don't resonate with that. I never had that mentality. But it's crazy how it's been being revealed how many people think of that. You know, people that I've known, they flip it around on me. Like, how dare you say that when you sing and play black music? Like, one thing doesn't have to do with another. If anybody who knows me and really knows me knows that I love black people and I speak from the heart, just like I would speak for any race, any person. Like, it's just the truth. So.
Yeah, it's amazing. You guys, for those who refuse to acknowledge history, I mean, there's nothing anyone can say to you. Look at those numbers. Look at who owned the slave trade. Look at who owned the ships. Look at who accounted for majority ownership. If that doesn't interest you, then you're committed to hating an entire group of people based on a fallacy.
Well, the thing is the people were brought up a certain way and they hear something for so long, they cannot face that maybe they got to rethink a lot of things that they've ever thought in their life. And that's something that I had to do for myself. I had to rethink the way I was brought up, rethink, you know, when you grow up as a kid, you think of your parents as like perfect gods. And until you hit that age when you realize that they're not. And then you go out and see the world, and you know, it's like, especially mothers that treats their sons and whatever as though they're special and great, right? You go out in the world and you realize, wait, I'm not so special, I'm not so great. And this was fed to me, and that's the lie, and you have to overcome and get over those kind of things. The lens you look through, you know? Like, that's what totally helped me overcome in my life was looking and seeing, rethinking everything that was sold to me. Everything that I was sold by movies, by school, by, you know, my parents, by the world, like all these influences imposed onto me, and I thought that it was me thinking it, but it wasn't me thinking it. It was imposed on me, and I just believed it, right? It wasn't my thoughts that came from myself and my own, you know, conclusions. It came from somebody telling me, and I believed it, you know?
Yeah, like Black Toria, credit solutionist, she black, and she just said it right. It's proof that anger is sneaky. They think passion is a good thing.
Right. The world tries to sell you to be, what's your passion? Be passionate. It's all a lie.
Yeah, it's amazing. You know, like, again, for Miss Amber Jones, Amber Riley, if you actually want to hold people accountable, then one, hold the black community accountable for the inordinate amount of crime that is committed by blacks in America. And then you can hold the Jewish population accountable for their ancestors being overly represented in the slave trade. But you obviously have no interest in that. And me pointing that out, I don't care. That past is gone. It doesn't affect me. You know, but it is affecting you, and you never lived through it. you're running off anger, and it doesn't let you actually be open to new information, to assimilate it, process it. Just like D, unable to hear another point, because just waiting to get his
Here's what I want to know, right? Like you can ask one black person if they're living in fear every day that they go out, right, by cops or whatever that is, and they'll tell you that they do. You can ask another black person who lives in the same city, and they say, "Oh, I don't experience that at all." Why not? Why does one experience it and have that fear, and the other doesn't? And at the end of the day, it comes down to how you were raised, what you believe, and the power of your mind, and what you attract for yourself in your thoughts of fear. You know?
Genetria. All right.
Genetria.
Press 2.
Genetria.
Genetria. Good evening. How you doing, miss?
What's cracking?
I'm doing good. How are you guys
Woo,
doing?
it's
little
a-
crazy in
it's
the
a hot one
chat.
tonight.
I see. It's a hot one.
No, it's
That's
good though. I think it's good.
true. My big discussion with my coworkers today was I was telling them how most things are being put out as like most blacks are violent, most blacks are this, most blacks are that. But my thing is that even if you're like me, no record, educated, I carry myself well, I kind of, in a way, get discredited as a black person. Like, I have people tell me of different race, like, whether it be my ex who was Hispanic or my white friends, they'll say, "Oh, but you're not, you know, you're different." Like, but I'm black, you know, like, so I think that, like, molding this image of most blacks, like, just always making it a race thing on both sides is, like, continuing that message of this victim mentality of blacks are this and blacks are that. Why can't it just be the person? So
True. You should not. It should not be. So my argument for why we need to be observant of those statistics and recognize, like Jesse famously says, not all, but most. It's not to put blame on them. Is to shatter that spell that they've been fed by the media and in the school system for 60 plus years, to make them ignore what's happening while they are killing themselves at record rates. Not all, but you see it happen like in Chicago. They don't pay any attention to that because they're not trained to. They've got them on a trigger so that if it's a white person who's doing the shooting, then they go off. But if it's a black person, you don't see that passion there.
And at the end of the day, like, I only talk about this stuff because the narrative that's being sold is completely the opposite, and no one's talking about it. So it's like trying to balance it out and be like, well, wait a second, yeah, like, you know, like at the end of the day, it's like the decent blacks that are like you that don't, you know, have, you know, are educated, they don't have a criminal record or whatever. There are a lot of my friends they're still blaming white people and saying they live in fear when they should be looking, like, if it was me, if it was flipped and it was white people, I'd want to be like, look at the white people and be like, hey, why is this happening? Because it's all connected, you know, with the whole cops thing. The reason why, you know, those stereotypes, because of those statistics and those records with cops, they know that it's more likely, right? The chances, they go off of, oh, it's 10 times more likely that this person is going to shoot me or whatever, based off of the criminals and everything like that. So at the end of the day, it's not, it falls on the whole community, which sucks because I agree that it is about individuals. But, like, you know, with like rap music and it's posed as like, oh, to be black you got to be a thug or whatever. Like, I see, like, my friends that talk white or whatever you want to say, that they get casted out, called Uncle Toms and coons, and made fun of because they're not black enough. So it's like they're caught up in the culture. Like, I don't think that anybody should have pride in their culture like that, like group thought, you know. I don't agree with all white people. I look at people as individuals, and I think that, you know, especially in the black community, that there is that tribalism on a much higher, like, stronger level, where it's like, we got to stick together, you know? We black actors, man. What was that, Dave Chappelle? You get what I'm saying?
yeah, I I get what you're saying, which is why I can listen to y'all's point of view, even though I don't agree. Even if I have to agree to disagree, I can still listen. And there
Yeah.
was even points in the whole show where I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. But then other times I could listen and be like, that has nothing to do with X, Y, and Z. So I just feel like okay, so y'all are talking about the whole Black businesses hashtag, and people are going in on the comments. But my opinion about that is I had no opinion about it. I didn't even form those thoughts that y'all were speaking of until I heard them.
Well, it's actually
now.
not so much
When I saw that hashtag, I was just like, oh, cool. Like, there's probably not the people that I choose to follow on my social media. Like, I don't see enough Black businesses. So I looked at the hashtag as, oh, let me flip through and see.
And I didn't even.
Is there anything I like? But I didn't feel peer pressure to purchase anything. My thing with white liberals, I'm going to tell you a story. Like, I was at Randall last weekend, and I was waiting on this lady to clean the basket so I can go into the store. And a white lady walks up to me, and she says, here, take this money. And I was like, oh, I don't work here. I assumed that she thought I was cleaning baskets and was trying to tip me or something. And then she was like, you don't want my money? And I'm like, what is this, your white guilt trying to, like, give me money? Like, what is this? It was, like, very strange, but my thing is, like, why is the solution to, like, just throw money at something as if it's just going to fix everything, like, let's throw money at Black Lives Matter, or let's throw money at, let's make this hashtag for Black businesses, blah, blah, blah. But, like, my thing is, why is the solution money? Like, why are we talking about race? Why not build people up? And when I look at the Black conservatives like Candace Owens or even Jesse, I go to their pages because I haven't heard any of their radio talks. And when I hear your callers calling in talking about Jesse, I'm like, oh, that's what he's talking about? That actually sounds really good. But I don't get that message when I go to their page because it's mainly about, in a way, bashing the Black community. And I'm just like, so what I see reflected on Instagram versus what I hear that Jesse talks about, which seems actually really good. I'm like, where could I find that stuff versus what I'm looking at on there?
Yeah, Jesse has.
That makes any sense.
No, it does. Jesse has like 3 different channels. He has one that's called The Fallen State, where he interviews people one-on-one. And then he has another one, which is Church on Sundays. And then he has one that's JLP Talks, where he has a radio show, people call in, and stuff like that. And so I could totally understand. Like, when I found Jesse, I first found him and was, like, blown away by what he said. By being like, what? How could he say that, And then as I started listening and kind of like, at first I was just entertained by it. And then when I started listening and realizing that everything he was saying about the Black community was applied to me and my family and my mom and my dad and how I was raised, I realized, like, whoa, like, what he's saying is universally so true. And it's not about just the Black community. And because he started in the 80s or whatever, and he started it as rebuilding the Black man, right? And then eventually he started helping so many different people of all races, he changed it to just rebuilding the man. And I totally understand how things occur, like you only get a sliver of something. You could come to a conclusion about it and be like, oh, that's, but I got addicted to watching it, and that's how I ended up finding out what the root of what he was saying,
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to entertain the stuff that he's posting on Instagram just because it's like, like, I don't know, him bashing or whatever. Like, what's the root of what you're trying to say? Because if I have to, like, scroll through all this unnecessary, like, fillers just to get to the root, like, just tell me what you're trying to say. I think he would get more Black people who would, instead of misunderstanding him because he's filling it with so many fillers, if he would just get to the root, then I think his following, especially for the Black man, would be better. Because when you're, like I said, when y'all are talking about what he's talking about in church, and the callers are calling in, like, quoting things that he says, I'm like, whoa, that's actually pretty deep. That's actually really good.
Right.
But it doesn't reflect on the same level. So, and it's the same thing. So it makes me think that they're just doing it for clout, or like who are they really trying to please here? Because if they're rooting for the black community, like that's not the audience that they're attracting because of the fillers that they're filling it with.
I would say.
So I don't know. I just feel like the message that the intention is there. I could see it. I could hear it. But if you wanted to, it's not reaching the right people.
At the end of the day, too, I know that Jesse's been doing this for like 30 years, and he's like 72 now, and he just doesn't give a F. I mean, he's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
You know.
There's
Which is refreshing that y'all could speak out and y'all could speak y'all's mind. I have nothing against conservative people. I was telling my conservative friends this earlier. I was like, I don't get mad that y'all are outside of abortion clinics rooting for people not to have an abortion, because I'm hoping that one of the girls walking in there will look at y'all and maybe think twice about what you're doing. Like, speak up for what you believe, for your morals, for your beliefs. But, like, I think that there are, and the media is going to shine light on the people who are twisting the morals that conservatives believe in and turning it into a race thing, right? And
I think when it comes to what you
so
said
when
about...
I think conservative, I think racist instead of thinking Christian values. You know what I mean?
Yeah, when it comes to what you said about Jesse and how it comes off like bashing, you have to, that's kind of what people need to overcome, is that don't be quick to call it bashing or anything. Just sit, relax in it, and listen, because sometimes you have to be blunt, but it doesn't imply everything that your thoughts might tell you come with that statement. And right now, the big takeaway and why he goes hard on blacks in terms of what he sees as their major problem is the anger within the black community and the destruction of the black family, and how that has led to these crazy, staggering crime stats. With just, I mean, the fact that 4 to 6% of the population is black males between about 18 and 25, and they commit over 50% of murders, over 90% of black homicides. Like, those numbers are so staggering that they're not reflected in our media, they're not reflected in our education, they're reflected nowhere, because they don't want that narrative. What they want is blacks to be angry about a past that was distorted, because they're using them like they used them through civil rights, like they used them in slavery. They're using them to get a political agenda accomplished. So that's why Jesse goes hard on that fact. And then his message for whites is that they're weak, because they are. And there's other things, of course, that could be more nuanced. But I would just say, sit and relax in it. Don't let your thoughts tell you he's bashing them. Just give it some time, listen, hear him when he does expound on it, because it'll make more sense.
Well, I think what you said too, like, makes me realize, like, when I first started watching Jesse, his whole thing is about overcoming anger, and that it's not natural, and especially a man should not have anger. When I started hearing what he would say, like, all of a sudden some of the stuff would make me mad, and then I realized that, wait a second, is that his tact? Is he trying to pull anger out of me so that I could realize that I have anger? And that helped me realize that I had anger even more. And I don't know if that's his tact, but that's just one of the things that I realized for myself, was that, like, dang, like, how come what he says or whatever has that power to make me angry? And then if I didn't have anger at all, I couldn't get angry. And then when I really looked at myself, then I don't get angry anymore. Nothing can trigger me. Nothing makes me upset, and I'm thankful for it.
Like, when that caller called in, the one who got really upset, I was rooting for her. I wanted her to speak her mind. I wanted her to get her point across, but I know she probably, she let her emotions get in the way of her conversation.
Right.
But, I was genuinely, like, rooting for her.
Same here.
So was I.
The best part is the fellowship. That's the whole goal. Is I'd rather talk to somebody who disagrees with me, but I want to talk to them. But a lot of times, because of that anger, which is why Jesse goes hard on that issue, that anger is the sin, it keeps us blind and locked into a narrative that we really aren't very open to anything. We're not open to facts. We're not open, like, again, for the slavery thing. I drive it hard because people, the blacks who want to hold whites accountable for slavery, that's wrong, because guess what? Jews own the majority of them, and they own the slave trade. Why don't they have that same anger towards them? It's because they weren't taught that.
But see, the thing with them too is that I noticed that there's this pattern of, like, like, if you criticize them, all of a sudden you're anti-Semitic. If you criticize black people, all of a sudden you're racist. But if you criticize white people, it's all good. White people have oppressed, people, and then white people are the ones I noticed that
But you know what?
you could say
but
anything
but y'all
about.
talk about like whites and Jews, and honestly, from a black point of view, like it's all y'all are all the same thing. So I don't think that they view it as Jews and whites. Like
No,
I bet you they couldn't tell you. Most blacks couldn't tell you a difference. Just like we can't. Most Americans can't tell you a difference between a Mexican and a Puerto Rican. Like
Listen,
y'all are all,
but it
they're
matters
all Mexican.
because they're holding us
Like, so,
accountable.
It
So,
matters
but you trying
because
to
it matters
make
because
it so
because
complex.
Jewish people themselves don't identify as white.
Right.
They're the ones that are
Right.
separating themselves from white people. And just like that caller who got emotional said, that Jewish people keep their money within their own community, right? It's Jewish people. It's
Right.
not just white people and Jewish people. They keep their own money. They got their own thing going. And they don't have, when it came to that business thing, I didn't notice the hashtag of the black business things. I noticed on my Amazon, on my Yelp, on Uber Eats, on
Postmates.
all these things that as soon as I open it up, it says this, and it's giving me a discount if it is black. And that's when I realized, wait a second, like that's kind of that's not right to try to promote, like give me incentive to spend money somewhere else just because of the skin color and give me a discount. You know what I'm saying?
Right. And I get that part. Like you're furthering your agenda of making everything about race when it should just be. It is what it is. You know what I mean?
Because I look up to too many black people. That have something I want within their character or their talent or whatever that is. That I just don't look down. Like when I see these white liberals, like you said, that wanted to give you money because you're black, thought you were whatever. Like that's the type of thing that I'm against. Is like I see as true equals, and it's crazy to me how when I try to express it, I don't know if I express it the right way or the wrong way, but some people get it, some people don't. That it's taken the wrong way where it's seen as racist when I just truly see like my black brothers and sisters as my equals, and I don't treat them any different based off their skin color. I want to have the same confidence talking to a white person as a black person, and not feel afraid that they're gonna think I'm racist or give any special treatment.
Would you agree, Janitra, that there is since the civil rights era, that the fact that the numbers show that fathers have been absent from the homes, more black males imprisoned, hundreds of thousands of black babies aborted. Would you agree that if we fix the root, if people address the root problem of bringing the family back together with strong men to lead those families, would we drastically reduce those numbers?
Oh yeah, I agree with that 100%. And it's about addressing the root. Fine, but I think that there just needs to be a stronger leader for the black community to stop forcing that victim mentality on people. And
yeah, that's like Al Sharpton and Maxine Waters.
Jesse Jackson. Those guys are hustlers. They hustle black people.
And I realized for myself that one of the problems is that we as a people, as men, seek for leadership from other people way too much, and we need to seek within ourselves and let God be our leaders, because I think it's written in our hearts to know what's right and wrong, and we kind of either we smoke weed or drink or eat or do something to avoid conflict within ourselves, and I think we got to go walk towards that so that we can overcome it and become strong as men, so that we can lead into logic and in God. I don't think we should have those leaders. I think we should have examples in the world that we look up to.
Well, yeah.
But like Al Sharpton and those guys, they're making bank, getting in on private jets, making money off of people's anger, and they don't live in those communities
at all. That's what Jesse, he woke me up, because I would have been one of those white liberals who operates from emotion, and you think you're helping people, but they don't love anybody. Like, if you have anger, you just don't love anybody, because if they disagree with you, kind of like with that caller, we disagree, that your anger will justify why you should hate that person, instead of just relax and let's talk. We don't have to walk away hating each other just because we don't agree on points. Why can't we sit down, have a coffee, and talk?
And that's one thing I really like about you, is that you don't seem like somebody who's going to just give up on somebody because they think differently or whatever. You stick around, and you want to understand, and you must be somebody who wants to find the truth for yourself. there's so many people that I've known personally for like 10 years, over 10 years. They see one post or whatever, and they interpret it a certain way, and then they're all, you know, come to a conclusion about my heart and who I am when I've been nothing but good to them, you know. So I appreciate that you are like that, and that you want to understand and you want to talk it out and figure it out, because I think that's what we need to come together as Americans and as people.
Right. I'm not here to judge you, and I'm not here to judge Richard. I'm just here to get a different perspective, because I know my own point of view.
Yeah.
But when somebody starts bringing up other, like a different opinion than mine, I don't want to say just shut them down. I want to, well, why do you feel like, why do you say that? Because you could change my mind, maybe, you know. But it's not about shutting anybody's opinion. Not even opinion, like just, you know, I don't know if it makes any sense, but I don't judge anybody. Like I just feel like if I judge or, you know, force my opinion onto anybody else or whatever, just if I do anything that seems very godly, I'm just like not worthy. I'm not God. I fear God, which is why I judge no one. Right? You know, it's all spiritual for me personally, which is why I can hear both sides and judge no one, because I'm indifferent about it all. All I care about is my own purpose and my own destiny and getting to heaven. That's all it's about for me. And so, I don't know.
Do you think in terms of Trevor's seen this and I've experienced it, there are some Black Americans who, when things like this happen to some of these guys, when they get in these police confrontations, and you know, especially when they are career criminals or have a past or were in the middle of a crime, do you think it makes sense for another Black American, upstanding, like you have no record, you're not out there doing nothing wrong, you go to work, you take care of your son, you raise him, you fear God, you live right. Do you think it's fair for them to say that they say, well, that could have been me?
I think I understand what they mean, but I think it's a bit of a reach, if that makes any sense. Like,
I agree.
I don't justify the overkill, I guess, but I do personally believe that when cops react and then when Black people react, it's all just conditioned fear on both sides.
Right. Exactly.
That's like you kill or get killed. Like, and when these Black men are getting arrested, their fight or flight response kicks in, right? Because we've been conditioned through the media to see, oh, cops kill. That cop is gonna kill you. You need to protect yourself, defend yourself. So they fight, and it's not conscious. I think it's all an unconscious reaction that the media has instilled in Black people. Me myself, like, it's when that caller called in and she was like, Black people walk and they feel fear when they see a cop. She's not wrong, but I understand that my fear comes from something that the media has instilled. That movies, that Hollywood, that the news, they show you that cops kill Black people. That's what they're feeding you, right? That's what they're feeding.
And who owns
the Black community?
Who owns all the media and the TV shows? Who owns that?
Well, I mean, at the end, who owns it? I feel doesn't matter, because it's what we see. So,
right, but it's definitely
whoever owns it is winning. Because at the end of the day, they're instilling the fear not only into Black people, but into the cops, that Black man is going to kill you if you don't protect yourself. So they protect themselves. They're human, you know what I mean?
Right.
They're not robots. They're not going to not feel endangered. They're a species. They're going to protect themselves. They're human. So I feel for both sides. It's awful.
And that's why it always comes down to the family, you know, like how you're raised. If your parents are, because I know a lot of Black people are raised by their mom or their family that teaches them now, as a Black person, this is what it's like in the world. And from a young age, they
Well,
grow
yeah.
up to seeing through that lens of that fear, because of and you mix that with the movies, and because I agree, like, you know, you turn on any movies and stuff, they always portray the same kind of character, the same,
Oh yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
like
they want you on edge. Your whole life, you gotta be on edge.
and
I was just asking a group of people earlier today. I was like, they portray black people to be a certain type of way, right? But I asked them all an honest question. It's like, have you ever met a black person in your life like that? I even asked my ex, who has been around plenty of black people. I brought him around my family. I brought him to black events, blah, blah, blah. I was like, honestly, tell me if you ever met the kind of black person that was portrayed in a movie. Because even his family used to tell him all the time, like, oh, you're not scared to be around her family? Like, those black people? Like, you know, and I'm just like, it's just all this it's a big stereotype, and he's like, no, I never, like, I was like, I've never even been around a person. You are who you surround yourself around, and it's just about that accountability, right? That's what y'all say. It's just about blacks taking accountability for their own actions,
and whites, anybody, you know, like we all, it's the same timeless principles in nature, and that's why the family, like, the society is being demoralized on a whole, you know, with movies and standards of what they say, you know, like people are losing their faith in God, and it's more and more people don't believe in God. There's more atheists. They you know, there's the single mothers or women that are like, I don't need no man. I'm going to go out there and get a job and not have a family, and it's all promoting just the wrong way to go, you know, and the whole thing with the whole George Floyd and the police brutality and stuff. It's like, I get there are some points in there about things, but it's the root. It's never a conversation, you know, especially in the media, and so that's why I want to be on here talking, because I care. It's out of love. Like, I wish that my black friends would come on here and call me, and we could talk about it. Like, because all the friends that I've lost, I didn't get any phone calls or texts from anybody. It was just a comment on Instagram or something, like, unfollowed, you know, I didn't know you were this way, or whatever. And it's like, at the end of the day, we just want to understand, you know, all people, so that we can, you know, it's the family. I know that that's what it comes down to.
It's just like with your son, Janitra, and, you know, and I'm a son, I'm somebody's child. It does no good to tell that kid that you are a victim as soon as you hop out of your mom's womb, that you will always be a victim, and that no one will give you a fair shake, and that you cannot overcome. You like cripple their strength from the very beginning, and even if I did wrong, which I've done wrong in my life, I've broken the law, and I was a criminal, and I was not a decent person at that point in my life. So what good would it do? Even if, say, I did a crime, the cop was extra rough on me, unnecessarily rough, you know, yes, is that wrong in that instance? Yeah, but who put themselves in that situation? And I deserve every bit of blame, because if I was never living wrong, I wouldn't be in that situation. And like you said, I wouldn't be in a situation to be subject to a cop who may also have the same fear programming, to be jumpy about somebody who may look like me, whether I'm black, white, you know, baggy pants, or whatever it is. And that's the evil, how it puts us into situations with other people who are also under the same influence. And if we don't deal with the root, what good is it dealing with the after effects?
That's true. And I like what y'all said. I don't remember who said it, but I like what y'all said earlier about just you basically said just putting that awareness out there, right? Like, just I don't know how you worded it, but it made sense when you said it that way, that you're just trying to make it known because it's something people aren't mentioning, right?
Right, just to counter the narrative, because it's all one-sided.
But it can't be all you talk about. And I think that more conservatives would be able to prove their point if they didn't have so many fillers. Like, just get straight to the point. Why do you have to contradict every little thing? So, like, if it's Black Lives Matter, why do you protest the protest, like, with your All Lives Matter thing? Like, just say what you need to say without putting in so many fillers, because people being human and people having that anger that they have, they're not going to hear you if you're filling up the fillers. Start with the root, right? And then tell them why with your fillers. But I mean, I'm patient enough to listen through your fillers and your and your stats and your blah blah blah. But as soon as somebody enters y'all's show and all they hear you talking about race this, race that, and it takes forever to get to the root, it's just like they immediately become offensive, which is, it's not your job to people please, right? You're not here to baby anybody and, you know, sugarcoat anything, but it's just, some of it does get a little
controversial,
draining to listen to all day, and controversial.
No, I agree, and that's interesting. Is how that I take account in my life about situations is like the word occur, right? It's like you could walk into a conversation and you only hear how it occurs to you walking in on it. You only catch a tidbit of it, and you automatically, because our egos just want to know, and we conclude to thinking we know everything about their intentions, where they're coming from, or whatever the conversation is. I've always thought that was funny when people walk by, you're eating lunch or something, and you hear like, and then they squeezed my dog, and you're like, whoa, and then you could like try to figure out everything they were talking about. But I do understand, and sometimes it's like, as someone who's speaking or doing live streaming or whatever, it's I don't want to come across as like I'm beating a dead horse over saying the same thing over and over, you know. And so, but I know that's important to drill in the root, like you said, like make it more about the family, and you know, because I can't, like you said, I can't control what people walk into and what they're listening, because I could have started here and ended up here, and someone came in and they only heard that one part, and then I occurred a certain way to them, for sure.
Okay. Yeah. But that was all I wanted to chime in on.
No, I appreciate it.
Go to sleep, but
I just want to say, Janitra, thank you, because there's a lot of people in this chat who disagree with us, and they're black, and they make it seem, and they want people to believe that, you know, not a single black person in the world can, one, even just talk to us without hating us, let alone two, agree with some of these points. And again, we're not here to change your mind or anyone's mind. We just want to talk and fellowship, and maybe we can edify each other. So thank you for being an example of that, and hopefully some of these guys, and I got no hate for them, but hopefully they can learn something and do the same thing. Just take the emotion out and let's talk it out.
Right.
yeah, I hope that some of these people who disagree with you can call in and have a conversation. Like, all the yelling and defensiveness it's annoying.
I think the key too is, at the end of the day, is if someone does disagree, we'll just tackle a disagreement at a time. You know what I mean? Like, what's one thing you disagree with? Oh, well, let's talk about that. As opposed to going down the list and making it like so hard to like gather everything, you know? Like let's just take one thing at a time so that we can discuss it.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah.
Well, I got love for you, Janitra, and thank you.
Yes.
Okay,
God bless, Janitra. Get some rest. Thank you so much for staying up this late with us.
Yeah. I know, we've been on here a long time.
Okay. Bye, y'all.
All right. Good night now. We'll see you next time. Well, I think that is late enough. It is damn near 11
This is
o'clock.
a song I made a while ago, and I remember Janitra requested it before, so I think it's a good little song. It goes.
It's for you, Janitra.
It goes. Gotta get the levels right. Love is the answer to find. Anywhere you go, everywhere you go. Love can heal all of mankind. Anywhere you go, everywhere you go. It don't matter where you are, someone out there's where you are. You might just be a shooting star, so be a bright light in the dark. Never say never. What does the future hold? It's all mathematical. 1 + 1. You can't fool the system. I've learned just to listen, and love is the answer to find. Anywhere you go, everywhere you go. But then, you ask yourself, well, what is love, Because most of the world thinks that love is an emotion, and that love is a feeling, and that love is how someone makes you feel, and for a long time I believed that love was that. But the reality is God is love, right? And love is the truth, love is honest, love is the absence of anger and hatred. So whenever we feel that anger or hatred inside when we disagree or when we're talking about stuff, there's no love in that. So I think that we need to have love in all conversations and in our intentions and be aware of our intentions. And it makes me think about like my career, right, in music and stuff. And for a while I would feel like I wanted to be successful just so I can show all those other people that didn't believe in me or that, were against me or whatever. And it redefined my intention, because I never want my intention to be out of spite or anger or hatred or be successful so that I'll show everybody else, and that was kind of like that bottom for me that contributed to me realizing about my family upbringing and about how I got angry. And, I started making music and writing songs because it was out of real love, because I just liked to do it. I didn't decide I was going to make music. I just did it ever since I was a kid, and then I looked up and realized that I had a skill and that I could, utilize it and do it. And especially like, I've always looked up to black artists and musicians and thought that they were, they had this quality of music that I just really loved, and so I admired it, and I celebrated it, and I, went around town in different, circles and stuff, and I celebrated the music with my friends of all different races. And I never want to have my intentions be turned around. And at the end of the day, it's like I never want my environment to determine what my intentions are. I don't want someone doing something wrong to me to determine how I'm supposed to intend to be successful in my life. Like I've been screwed over in a lot of different situations, and not one time have I ever concluded that I was screwed over because someone was black. Like I've always dealt with people as individuals, and known that like, well, this person, they're wrong, and they don't have, their heart isn't in the right place. And I always want to be cognizant and aware of that every single person is an individual, and at the end of the day, we shouldn't attach ourselves to groups. Like, not all cops are bad. You got bad eggs in every group. Not all white people are bad. Not all black people are bad. And even though we have the statistics to look at stuff, right, you can't group people in. It has to be revealed to you, which is why when I moved around town and I made friends based off of situations, how it was revealed to me, And music has that power, where it brings people together, where you don't even have to have a conversation, but you recognize the musicianship amongst people, and it brings you together, and you become friends, or whatever. And sometimes words are the thing that ruin things. So, I don't know.
Yeah, thank you guys for. This was a hell of a night, and even though Steven said he's not coming back, take my call now. It's a wrap, man. Like, you got, don't be that mama spirit trying to boss people around. We had the call line open for a minute. It was dead silent when we were waiting for Tavares. Tavares, if you got the message there, if you're free, call back tomorrow night. Definitely would like to have you on. But Steven, even if you're not gonna come back again, kind of sucks. But if that's your decision, then so be it. Still wish you well. But thanks everyone else who could fellowship. Thanks Janitra, she black, and she could fellowship. So
that's something Jesse. See, if people don't know Jesse, they don't know what that means. But at the end of the day, it's something he says all the time, because he's making fun of himself. I don't know. I can't explain it. I guess something you gotta just know.
Yeah, and there's plenty. There's all kinds of different black people, different opinions. So speak for yourself in life. Don't speak for the group. Just like I can't speak for all white people, nor do I vouch for all white people. But anyways, the fellowship is what's important. Thank you guys for sticking around. Thank you for all the crazy super chats. We definitely will go to getting the mics and everything and all the equipment we need.
Yeah.
So hopefully those who disagree do come back and call in, just not angry.
Yeah, it's like, I remember when I used to get in like fights in high school and stuff. After I got in a fight with somebody, we became friends, because it was like, damn, like, I already hated you and we already fought, and now, we're at the bottom. The only place to go is up. So if you feel some kind of way, man, especially, it's like, don't go to bed angry, man. I think that's so important for people to realize is you don't go to sleep angry and pissed off, whether you're in a relationship or whatever, you want to work it out, and just so you don't suffer within yourself. Like that's it, man. I think a lot of people are angry, and our intellectual minds convince us that we have a right to be, but we really don't, because we're not God, man. But yeah, peace.
Peace, everybody. Trevor will take you out.
Pros and cons, pros and cons. The world blames dad when it's really your mom.
Good night, everybody.